Welcome to the Behind the Shield podcast. As always, my name's James Gearing, and this week it is my absolute honor to welcome on the show veteran stuntman Jason Gray. Now, Jason has spent almost 4 decades in the stunt industry, starting with the live shows in Orlando before progressing into Hollywood and making a career in film, televisions, music videos, and commercials. So we discuss a host of topics, from the genesis of Disney and Universal Studios in Florida, the inherent dangers in live stunt shows, specialisation, sleep deprivation-related tragedies in Hollywood, typecasting, the Oscars, and so much more. Now, before we get to this incredible conversation, as I say every week, please just take a moment. Go to whichever app you listen to this on, subscribe to the show, leave feedback, and leave a rating. Every single 5-star rating truly does elevate this podcast, therefore making it easier for others to find. And this is a free library of well over 1,200 episodes now. So all I ask in return is that you help share these incredible men and women's stories so I can get them to every single person on planet Earth who needs to hear them. So with that being said, I introduce to you Jason Gray. Enjoy. Well, Jason, I want to start by saying thank you so much for taking the time and coming on the Behind the Shield podcast today.
Oh, it was my pleasure. I was surprised you called me. You got some good guests on. I've been watching some old episodes. I mean, you really got some good guests on there with lots of insight. It's very, very interesting podcast you got going there. So congratulations.
Thank you. Well, we will get to where we met and, Steve Dunleavy and Julia Dye and Dale Dye and some of these other incredible people that we all work with in Japan. Very first question, though, where on planet Earth are we finding you today?
I'm at my wife's hometown in Thousand Oaks, California. This is where I landed 25 years ago. We met in Florida. She's from Thousand Oaks, California. So I'm in her old neighborhood down the street from her old high school. Both of our boys went to high school. So she's home. And now I've made this my home, Thousand Oaks, California.
Brilliant. Well, I want to start at the very beginning of your timeline. So tell me where you were born. And tell me a little bit about your family dynamic, what your parents did, how many siblings.
Sure. I'm a country bumpkin. I'm from the Midwest, born and raised in Iowa. I never lived on the farm, but both my grandparents did, both sides of my family. My mom has 8 brothers and sisters, and my dad had 9. And that's what I did in the summers. I worked at grandparents' farm, milking cows, baling hay, putting up stuff, and riding go-karts and mini bikes and doing rope swings and roping cattle I shouldn't have been doing. But yeah, I have 3 brothers and sisters, 1 sister and 2 brothers, and they're still in Iowa. And I got out of there when I was 18, but I had a great childhood, great parents, no problems, lots of fun. But yeah, a little tiny town, 2,000 people. That's where I grew up.
What did your parents do as far as profession?
Like I said, my mom and dad were both farmers, but when they became adults and got married, my mom became a factory worker locally, and my dad became a UPS driver. So he was a mailman of sorts for 30 years, and my mom worked at a factory. The weird thing was my dad worked during the day, and my mom worked at nights. So it was a weird thing going on there for 20 years. So dad letting me cut loose instead of working. I'd still worked, but I squeezed sports in there, and I'm still a sports nut. I follow college sports like crazy in high school, local. And to this day, I'm still a youth track and field coach here in Thousand Oaks. So every March and April and May right now, I'm volunteering at the high school teaching 6th and 7th graders how to run track. So I'm still involved in sports.
When I think of Iowa, I think of wrestling. How competitive was it when you were wrestling as a kid?
Oh, you're good. Yeah. If you didn't wrestle, then there was something wrong with you in Iowa, because that's what everybody wrestled. 15 NCAA championships at Iowa when I was growing up there. They were the stalwart, the wrestling capital of the world. So that's what I did. I traveled all around Iowa on the weekends doing wrestling tournaments and following Dan Gable and going to wrestling camps and stuff. So I think that helped me out with stunts because I wasn't really a high fall guy or good on a motorcycle or a horse, but I could mix it up. I was physical, and so I think that paid off. Once you've wrestled, everything else is easier, is Dan Gable's motto, which is true.
It's amazing the number of high performers. There's another interview recently. The number of high performers that went through wrestling because of just the physical toughness, between just the physical, the crushing element of the sport itself, to the mental toughness, to the, the extreme heat in the mat rooms, to the weight cuts. What elements of wrestling do you think, contributed to the mental and physical toughness of stunts?
You hit it. I can't believe you know all that stuff. The wrestling room was all matted, even the walls, and it was 90 degrees in there, and you had to cut weight, and you had to go through nutrition programs, and so you got what you could eat instead of steak and potatoes, and corn, which is prevalent in Iowa. You learn to diet correctly and cut weight correctly, and work hard in that hot, sweaty wrestling room. Getting beat sometimes I got beat by the same guy over and over from another town. That weighed on me. I worked my ass off and still couldn't beat him. But we had good coaches and I had good teammates and we pushed each other. It's just, I think, mentally preparing all day at school during the wrestling season was tough. Like, you knew as soon as school was out at 2, from 2:01 to like 5 o'clock was going to be a brutal wrestling workout. You knew it was coming. It was hard every day. And after a few years, you get used to it, but maybe you don't. I don't know. But I always had that intrepidation. When class was over, I might walk down the wrestling room and get dressed. It's going to be, oh boy, here we go. It's going to be rough. And that's the same thing. You prep for some stunts that are hard. Like, this is going to be a thumper. There's nothing I can do. I just got to take it. Getting ratcheted through a window or getting thrown down a set of stairs. It's coming. And I remember that in high school. Here comes a wrestling tournament Saturday. I'm probably going to have 6 matches. It's going to be a rough day. Practice was rough. And you prepare for that. And I think that's what prepared me for stunts, is the word preparation, mentally and physically. Get ready. That's why I still work out. I still train, because you have to keep up with these. I'm almost done, but it's hard keeping up with these young guys,
I used to get a lot of anxiety before martial arts tournaments, and I'd always have to I'd eat a banana and have a poo before every fight.
Yeah, exactly. Yeah, drink some coffee, get cleaned out, break a sweat. Yeah. Same exact anxiety.
What about career aspirations? Were you thinking of stunts at that age, or was there something else in your mind?
No. As a matter of fact, in high school, I was a jock, but I still snuck some plays in. I just didn't tell anybody. But we had a pretty decent little drama team, club, or whatever you want to call it, in our little tiny school. And we had a theater in the library. And I'd do 1 or 2 act plays in there and just not tell anybody. Didn't want them to come see me, but I enjoyed performing and acting. And then when I went in the Air Force, I was a security policeman. And I would do skits and stuff over there in Europe. And I would go to plays and theater and concerts. And so I think I got sucked into the entertainment business in high school and then again in the Air Force. So when I went to college, I studied film, television, and radio at the University of Nebraska. And it was still, stunts wasn't even on the radar. But my guidance counselor in college said, hey, they're opening a bunch of studios in Florida, I hear. Universal's opening a studio and Disney's opening a studio. If you want to get in entertainment, you should move down there. And I moved down there and they were theme park studios. So you see, I was like, what? These aren't studios. These are theme park rides based on movies. I'm like, crap, what am I going to do now? So somehow I started hanging out with these guys that were doing the stunt shows in the theme parks. And we just started meeting at the lake or the beach or at workouts at the gym or at the rock climbing gym. And they're like, you should try out, you're a good athlete. You should try out for these stunt shows. And I'm like, stunt shows? What's that? So that's when I was 24 by the time I got into stunts. It was never, ever, ever on my mind. Just showbiz somehow. Acting, directing, writing, PA. I didn't care what it was as long as I was working on a commercial or a music video or TV show or whatever. But stunts never entered to my mind until I got prodded and pushed by the stunt guys I met in Florida. So never heard of it. Didn't know anything about it.
Was John Zimmerman around back then?
Yep, John Zimmerman, the Florida mentor. Yep, the Florida Mafia, the boss of the Florida Mafia. I mean, I can do some name drops, but your listeners might not know who they are. But I mean, 15, 20 incredible stunt guys from Florida that did the, I did Universal Studios. I did the Wild West show. I was Indiana Jones at Disney. I did the Pirates Dinner Adventure at King Henry's Feast. We were all learning jet skis and skiing and sword fighting and rappelling and fighting and motorcycles, and all those guys started peeling off and going to Hollywood, and they made it. I mean, Mike Massa doubles Harrison Ford. Scott Workman, God bless his soul is doubling Arnold Schwarzenegger. I mean, there's so many great, Nick Brandon and Hank Amos and Jim Churchman, all mentored by John Zimmerman, and he would tell you, hey, there's nothing else you guys can do here. Get out of here. The next thing I know, I look around, I'm the only one left. I'm like, what about me? He goes, oh, you stay here and help me. So I stayed another 2 or 3 years, and that's how I met you, by being his assistant and opening up theme parks. We opened what did we open first? We did the zoo at Disney World. We opened a couple of stunt shows there. And then we opened Universal Studios Japan. Oh, no, wait. Then we opened Universal Studios Islands of Adventure. And then we opened the Disney Gym Studios, and then we went to Japan. So we opened like 4 theme parks and maybe 12 or 13 stunt shows in a quick 6-year period. And then I'm like, there's nothing else for me to do. And then I went to Hollywood. No one invited me or told me to go. My wife was getting homesick, so we left. So yeah, if it wasn't for John, I wouldn't be where I'm at. And I think the Florida Mafia, most of the guys will tell you that as well.
Absolutely. I want to go back to your military service, because we were talking before we hit record about your time in Europe. So what made you choose that branch? And then talk to me about how you found yourself in Europe.
Sure. That's easy to answer. I come from a family that a lot of guys served. I got cousins that were in the Army, 2 that were in the Marines. I went in the Air Force. My uncle Dale, I was close to, went in the Air Force, and they all did their 4 or 5 years and are very successful in their lives. So I didn't want to be a farmer. My parents didn't want farming, so they quit and got real jobs. And I figured, well, if they don't like farming, I'm probably not going to like it either. So I didn't want to stick around there, but I didn't want to leave my friends. But I figured I would just join the service and go reserve and just hang around Iowa and see what happens. But I joined for 4 years and got sent to Europe. But I did it because I'm kind of patriotic, and I thought the Air Force would be a cool thing to do and get me out of town. And I wasn't going to go to college. I probably could have been a good student. I just didn't try. My whole life evolved around sports. So if I could get a C in a class, I did. I didn't really try hard. So I didn't have colleges clamoring for me for any scholarships or anything. And, I just thought that was the best way to get my life started and get out of town and serve my country. And then when they sent me to Europe, my orders right after boot camp was Belgium. I'm like, never even heard of Belgium. So when I looked it up, I go, that might be cool. So best choice I ever made, though, James. I mean, them sending me to Europe was 18, 19, 20 years old, never lived on my own. I was stationed on a little Belgian base and traveled to all over Europe on my days off. I had a blast. I met so many incredibly cool people and locals from Germany and Holland and France. I still keep in touch with a couple of people from Holland and another buddy of mine from Belgium to this day, 40 years later. They've come here. I haven't gone back yet, though, but that's definitely on the schedule.
You were talking before we hit record about the reception that you got, or the conversations from the European residents as far as the Allied nations that had helped liberate just a few decades before. So talk to me about that.
Sure. I think I was there in 81 through 84. So it was the Reagan era. Everybody liked Reagan, and most people liked the United States back then. So I could walk around and get gas and go shopping in my uniform straight after work. I'd stand my post, check my gun in, hop in my car, go get gas. Hey, American GI. And every bar I went to, every restaurant, every outing, every party, they were welcoming us open arms, because I got there in 81, 36 years after World War II. So that's about a generation and a half. Some of the younger kids remembered our GIs and other countries' parachuting into their backyard. They're like, hey, do you know James Smith from Indiana? He landed in our backyard and we hid him in a barn for a week. I'm like, I don't know who that is. But and then, the older ones, when they were 20 or 30 and married and had kids, they remember very, very vividly what happened on D-Day and shortly thereafter. And 1941 to 1944 wasn't so fun for the Europeans, but they remember 44 on after D-Day, and then a year later it was over. But I've been to Normandy, and I've been to the tank traps and the Battle of the Bulge and where the Band of Brothers did their trek. I've been to a lot of those cities. That show didn't come on for 20 years after I was over there, but they were very, very receptive, very cool, very fun, nice to us. And I hope we reciprocated, and most of us were nice to them. But it was a fun place to be, 18, 19, and 20. And basically, you're an ambassador, you're representing your country. And I think me and my buddies did a good job of that. I mean, some people get a little crazy and silly and are obnoxious, but I think we treated Europe with respect, and we got it back. And like I said, it was the time of our lives. We had so much fun going to London and France and Holland on our days off. It was unbelievable. Great time. I loved it. I don't regret a moment of joining the service. And I was a little scared when they said you're going to Europe. I'm like, where the heck is Belgium? But turned out to be the best thing for me. I grew up fast, took care of my money and got straightened out. And the cliche is they made a man out of me, James.
Well, philosophical question. You served, and now you're immersed literally with generations that remember the Allied nations liberating their countries. And here we are now in 2026, and there's a lot of conflicts that, around the world, some of which we are definitely involved in. One would argue even on the wrong side of it, depending on, which one we're supporting. But as a universal, humanity question, with such a tragic event only 80 years ago, why do you think that it's such a raw lesson that's literally 2 generations deep? Why do you think that we struggle to remember that and allow a repeat of those kind of things when literally we are still hearing the voices of the World War II soldiers now? They're in their hundreds, of course, but they're still alive to tell the tale.
That's true. It's dwindled down, hasn't it, World War II veterans? And I've met a couple of them when I go to war memorials and get-togethers down in San Diego. They always have a fantastic get-together on that aircraft carrier down there, the Midway, and you can meet some World War II veterans. And I just think today we're just a little overzealous. I think we're getting kind of obnoxious. We were in NATO helping other countries. We're all one big group, and it was during the Cold War with the Soviets. And then after the Cold War, you would have thought, okay, we're done. Everything's fine. But I think we're getting a little obnoxious, and we think we're the world democracy leaders, and whenever somebody's having problems with a dictator, our job is to go over there and get rid of them. I think we need to take care of home first, especially James living here in Los Angeles. My gosh, we got 60,000 homeless people that we should be spending money on and get them off the street so you can walk down Hollywood without going around them. They're literally on the sidewalk. You can't get through. You have to go out on the street to get around them. And a lot of them, unfortunately, are veterans. That's a problem. But instead of going around getting rid of dictators, we just should try our best to take care of home first, I think. That's where I'm at with all the being ex-military. I don't think it's our job to use our military and our incredible force. I think what they're trying to do is show everybody how strong we are, even though Russia faltered after the fall of the wall in the 90s. They're back, and now you have the China presence. So we're trying to, there's a 3-way battle for world dominance. And I don't know. I used to watch the news quite a bit, but now I don't. I concentrate on my community service, and the wife's going to retire next year, and we're just planning travel. We want to go travel, but not, do we have to hide the fact that we're Americans so they don't give us a hard time? Because once you have an unpopular president that's stepping on people and you try to go to Canada, or, we want to go back to Europe or Australia or New Zealand, and you have to, be over the top nice and courteous and make sure that you're not pissing people off just because you're an American. It's not, it's an unpopular government right now, not the American people. So I want to travel. So we're going to try something this fall and go to Canada and see how we're doing out there. long answer.
No, but it's a beautiful country. It's just a shame. And I've always said this. I mean, the last, what has it been now, 9 years, basically, I wouldn't let Trump date my daughter, and I wouldn't let Joe Biden flow my plane.
Yeah. So
neither of them are fit for the role. So it's not about being a left or a right. It's like, if you are going to do a 100-foot descender, you're not going to let a senile guy be in charge of your belay. If I'm going to go into a structure fire, I'm not going to let a guy who's more concerned with getting in front of the newspaper's photographer than being behind me in a structure fire. Like these are the wrong personalities for these jobs. And when it is at the detriment of a fire department or a production team or even a country, everyone's saying the same thing almost, except the people that are so diehard they refuse to say that they made the wrong choice. But it shouldn't be like that. And then someone said to me in a conversation quite a while ago now, they said, you got to remember that we are the poster child for democracy. Yeah. So if you...
And capitalism.
Yeah. And so if your nation is 75% obese or overweight and your children have to rehearse their murders in their schools and 100,000 Americans die of opioid overdose, how are we doing? So going back to your point, we need to put the focus back on the men, women, and children of America and make sure they're okay so that we can then project outward and say, no, democracy is good when it's done properly.
Yeah. And being ex-military, you see that budget go up every year from $500 billion to $700 billion to $900 billion. Now they're talking about $1 trillion defense budget, which is astronomically absurd as far as the other countries combined. We outprice them with our defense budget, and what good has it done us? I think we need to take care at home. I think it'd be easy to do, but the people that are running for government are not leaders. They're just power hungry. Like if you interview Trump or Biden back in the day, why do you want to be president? It's the power of living in the White House and having all those people wait on you hand and foot and running meetings and telling people what to do and being escorted in a limo and all the fancy stuff. They don't realize how hard of a job it is. It's a very, very difficult, very judgy job. They just want the power. And I think that goes back 3 or 4 presidents. They just run. You ask them, why you run for president? It's a power grab. They just want that power. They don't really. I mean, what did Biden do? His 46 years in government? Nothing. What has Trump done besides get everybody to hate us? So all the people that are Trump fans watching this video, and I never talk about politics ever because you can't do it on set.
This is the country, though. You know what I mean? This isn't even politics. These are the wrong people that are detrimental to our nation. I don't call that politics. I think that's a conversation that needs to be had.
Where's the next person that's going to run for government power and not be so power hungry and step on everybody's foot all over the world and just run for president because you want to help and fix stuff, not build a stupid. What's he building? An arch? He's got an airport named after him, and he's on the dollar bill, and he's on the new passports. That's not helping one single bit. And that's coming from an ex-military guy who loved Reagan at the time. But, I mean, we just don't have the personality in charge anymore that are nice human beings that want to just help. It's just a power grab. And then their main objective, every time someone interviews them, it's, are you going to bomb these guys? Are you going to bomb this guy? Are you going to take this out? That's all they ever think about is taking people out. You're going to bomb this person. You're going to bomb this country. You're going to take that dictator out. You're going to take that cartel leader out. We're just going around plucking people and taking people out. We've never done that before. So it's getting kind of scary.
Well, going back to the men and women that you spoke to in Europe, that's, I'm sure, not what they foresaw of the Allied leaders doing after what they experienced.
I don't know if I was over there stationed at a base, I'd be wearing my uniform off base, to be honest with you. I mean, Back in those days, everybody loved us. Now I would be, as soon as I check out, I'd put my street clothes on and go home. I don't think you can walk around in a bar in a GI uniform over there anymore without getting, blasted. So
It's funny. Trump just came here. He landed in the airport right down the street from my house and then went to a place called the Villages.
oh, the Villages, yeah,
You
I
know
know
the
about
Villages.
that.
So one thing the
Yes,
Villages only has is golf carts.
yeah,
So how
it's the biggest golf
interesting.
cart community in the country.
Exactly. So you've butchered the gas prices. So you're like, where can I go where I won't get get shit? Somewhere where there's no cars. I'm going to go
Yeah,
to a place where
that's
there's
the
only golf
place.
cars.
Yeah, like 100 miles of golf cart paths, biggest golf cart community in the country, and the biggest stalwarts. And I think that's a really to the right kind of politics place, if I'm not mistaken. So I try to stay right down the middle. I got to be careful on set. Some people wear their politics and their emotions on their sleeve. I just stay out of it because it could get you in trouble. So you can't offend the blacks or the whites or the Jews or the Muslims or the Christians and the big people and the little people and people of different race. You just got to love everybody and keep it clean and talk about the weather. And make sure you keep your politics to yourself, because I've seen some stuff and then all of a sudden you don't see that guy anymore. He's gone.
Mm-hmm. Well, question for you. It'd be interesting getting your perspective. I've been in this industry for so
Might as
long.
well. Might as
There's,
well.
the cancel culture is real, as you just said.
Oh, it's
However,
awful. Awful.
South Park has remained undefeated. What is it about that show that has been Teflon in the world of Hollywood?
I don't watch that show, but from what I've heard, I don't have to watch a lot of TV and movies to get feedback on set. They'll tell you everything they know about it. So I know people that watch that show on set. The reason I think it gets away with it is because they've been on so long and they have a huge, huge following. I'm just not one of them. But I mean, that show's been on 20 years, right, James, or more?
I think at least, yeah.
Oh, it has a huge following. I wouldn't call it a cult following, though. I think it's just a following, and it stays relevant, and it puts itself out there, and people watch it, and people love it. And I don't think they're ever going away. And I think they get away with stuff because they've been around forever, and they know how to deal with it. And so far, I think, yeah, they're batting 1,000, aren't they?
Yeah. Yeah, it's interesting because you have that whole cancel culture thing, but it seems like because they are such a guaranteed audience that if you have enough presence in entertainment, they're like, well, you don't need to be politically correct. Everyone else does, but you're making us too much money, so you just carry on doing what you're doing.
True. Paramount, that's their golden child. I think they got a huge $500 million deal to make more animation and more movies and TV shows. Those two, I forgot their names, but they've done very well, and they got a huge contract with Paramount a couple years ago. So they're not going anywhere anytime soon, because I think they started that when they were fairly young. So they're probably just barely in their 50s, if not 40s. So they got a long ways to go in the showbiz. So look out for those guys.
Absolutely. All right, moving away from that topic then, let's go back to the live stunt show. It's funny you mentioned the Pirates Dinner Adventure. I did that after Universal Studios. So that show has evolved, but yeah, that was a raw show. You had the Universal and all the safeties and guidelines, and I feel like Pirates is kind of like the Indonesian sweatshop version of stunt work.
I think those two owners were from Spain, and they just let it fly. They didn't adhere to any safety protocols at all. And that's why that show evolved from the time we opened it and had 8 or 9 different rewrites. I don't even recognize the show today. It's totally different from what we did back in the day, late 90s, I think it was. I'm not sure.
So talk to me about that. What was the first show that you did, and talk to me about your evolution? Because I went to drama school in the UK, then on a whim auditioned in Australia, and I did a lot of stage combat in drama school and the martial arts and stuff that I had before. But then I kind of tripped into Universal and that. So working with you was literally the beginning of my stunt training, and then Pirates and T2 and everywhere else. So what was the first show, and how did that evolve, and how did you create that journey of becoming a stunt performer?
When I moved to Florida, I didn't have a job for a week, so I took whatever I could get. I went to Disney, their employee I forgot what they call it, across the street there from Reedy Creek was their job. And you go in there, and I remember my mom said, "You need a suit and tie." And I said, "Well, I'll never wear it again. I'm not a suit and tie guy." But I did wear that brand new suit and tie to it. And I was the only one there with a suit and tie on in the waiting room. But I think it got me hired over everybody else because I was ex-military and squared away. And I said, "Yes, sir, no, sir." And I took a menial job at Epcot Center. And that's how I got my foot in the door at Disney. And then a year, because I got down there too early. Remember we talked about my guidance counselor told me the studios were opening. When I got to Universal, it was dirt. There were constructions going on. And Disney Studios was dirt. They were building that. The first thing up was the fake Chinese theater was going up. So I got down there way too early. It didn't open for like another 8 months. So I got a job at Epcot Center, sweeping floors and doing merchandise and cashier and folding clothes for like $5 an hour. Is brutal. And I barely got by for a year on that, paying rent and student loan. Well, I was on the GI Bill in college, but I still had loans, and I'd run out of gas. I couldn't pay my rent. And finally, I started running around with these stunt guys at the lake, riding jet skis and at the beach and at the bars and restaurants. And they said, "You should audition for that Indiana Jones stunt show at the Disney Studios. It's opening soon." And I did, and didn't even come close to getting in. But they needed stage hands at that show. So I put in a resume and changed it to all my film and TV and radio stuff. I worked at a TV station in Omaha, and they thought that was close enough. So I got a job at the Indiana Jones show, and my pay went way up to a whopping $7 an hour. So at that show, I was a stagehand for a year or two, just moving props around and doing lights and just doing stage work and running cameras. And another friend of mine had goals of getting in that show. So him and I would, between shows, would practice cracking the whip and do high falls when no one was around. And we could do all that stuff that the other stunt guys were doing in the show. So then the next year came around, and I auditioned again, and I said, "I'm going to be in this show," and still didn't get snagged. I couldn't act, I guess. All that high school acting theater stuff was not good enough for Disney. I was terrible. They go, "You need to work on your acting." So I took some acting classes. And actually I cheated. I didn't really take acting classes. I took auditioning technique classes so I could fool them and snag the audition. So I took auditioning technique classes. And then the third time I auditioned for that show, I got in. It took me 3 times. So then that changed my life. And then my money quadrupled, and the training for stunts began, and I went all in. So the biggest stunt show in the world, the Indiana Jones stunt show at Disney Studios in Florida in 1994. I went all in, and my first stunt show was that big whopper. And it was rope swings, fights, whip cracking shots, high falls. I learned a ton of stunts right off the bat, and met some incredible, awesome people that I'm still very close to this day. And that's where I met my wife. And that's how I got into live shows.
There was an incident recently where someone was hurt at the Indiana Jones stunt show. What's your perspective through a stuntman's eyes?
Well, when we opened that show, James, they were dropping like flies because they were hiring gymnasts from college. They've never done stunts, but they could flip and twist and fly. They were hiring dancers that looked like Harrison Ford. I've never done stunts. And they were hiring Marion Ravenwoods, who were that looked like Marion, that came from Disney, from singing and dancing. I don't think they hired one single stunt guy with any stunt experience whatsoever. It was a look, and it was a dance and movement and a little bit of athleticism. Now they've gone into just hiring athletes, guys that can take a beating and do a good show, and that's where they're at. So the injuries have gone way down. But when we opened that show, James, we had some horrific accidents the first 2 or 3 years. It was bad. A lot of people got hurt really bad. Blown knees, broken ankles, hit their head on the pavement. The ladder didn't work. They fell off the roof to the ground. I mean, it was bad. No one got killed, but I read 10 years ago that somebody did a simple flip and twist and landed on their head and broke their neck and died. So I think they've had one death there in the last 35 years. But when we opened, people were being taken out of there on a stretcher. It was bad. So we're like, is this show going to stay open? Is it worth it? And I go, is this what I'm getting myself into? I thought I could be a lot more careful. I'm like, how did he get hurt? How did she get hurt? That shouldn't happen. It's not that bad. It's not that. And I learned over the years, being John Zimmerman's assistant over at Universal, that you got to make these stunts so they're done over and over so a guy can do it 4 or 5 times a day. And you know that. And you got to be able to do this show 4 or 5 times a day, 4 or 5 days a week. So dial the stunts down so you can hire athletes and bring them in here and do a whip crack and a little fall, or get thrown through a breakaway window, or get shot off a roof, or do a rappel or a zip line. They should be able to be done over and over as safely as possible. And I think that's what Disney brought in, a stunt coordinator that dialed everything in and made it safer. And we started all these safety protocols. And that's when we opened Universal Studios. James, I became John's assistant. I did everything I learned at Disney and wrote all the SOPs and checklists for each stunt show. And SOP is standard operating procedures. Wrote all that stuff that I learned after Disney tried and failed to put in it was a big, at the time, it's probably one of the biggest stunt shows ever undertaken. It's a huge undertaking. And they just were having problems with keeping people safe. Now it's not so bad. And all the stuff I learned at Disney, I took over to Universal when I was with John Zimmerman. And I think it paid off. I mean, we had checklists and SOPs, and we were careful about who we hired. When we were down there in Australia, there's so much talent, but we had to dial in and, to segue to running auditions. If you had a kid and you said, hey, I just need you to hit this mini tramp and land on your feet, and then they did a double or a backflip, you're like, that's not the guy. You got talent, but you're not listening to directions. You're gonna get hurt. So the hot shots we just bypassed. We learned.
That's how I got hired.
All over yeah. Oh no, we just do a front flip and land on your feet. I don't need to see a double. You're not listening, and it's never going to do that in the show. You can't do that over and over and over every day. We just do simple stunts. They look spectacular, but you got to dial that stuff in and make it safe for these theme park athletes. And we started building weight rooms at different places and giving people gym memberships at the YMCA and a bicycle, and making, okay, you guys are athletes, stay in shape, work out, train. Here's your facility. So every facility now, I think, all over the world at Universal has training facilities for people. So I think that opening that show at Disney in 1989 was rough for Disney, and that show's still there, I think. I'm not sure.
Yeah. Well, I think that the boulder they just had come off the track, and it ran someone over, if I remember rightly. So I think he's okay.
That happened a couple of times when I was there as well. Yeah. It just came off the track. 3 times in 35 years is a pretty good record, but probably shouldn't have happened at all. It's just one of those things. It's why they call it stunts. I don't think Disney ever wants to do another stunt show again.
Yeah. Well, Mike Sawyer, did you ever work with him?
Yes, sir. Yeah.
Of course, he was with us in Japan, for example. But he was one of the lights, camera, action, stunt performers. Yeah, and it was a great show. And I got to, ironically, I went to see him a few years ago, and he told me about auditions for the Bourne show, and I ended up auditioning and getting that. So I just went as a guest and ended up becoming a stuntman again. But it was only a few weeks after that they shut it down. And they bulldozed it and made it into, I think, shops and restaurants, to make more money. And I just think as a stunt performer, that's bullshit. People are paying a lot of money to see shows. And now what you're getting is the shows are getting less and less, and places for people to spend even more money are replacing them. I think that's unethical, personally.
Yeah, out here, and I'm still a contracted vendor for Walt Disney Company. I still help them out with ride stunt shows and auditions, and I just did a project for them last month, a big NDA on that one, so I can't talk about that. But they're still doing stuff, and their motto is take the human element out of it. They want to do 3D stunt show rides. The workers' comp is what kills you when people get their head thwacked and blow their knee out and sprain their ankle. I don't know. I never saw that Lights Motor Action show. I only saw it on TV, on video, and I thought it was pretty darn good. It was incredible. A lot of action. I don't know if too many people got hurt in that one, but they took what they learned at Disney World, what they learned at the Indiana Jones show, they took over to that car stunt show. And like, we don't want to do stunt pay anymore. We don't want it. This is a flat rate. It's not that dangerous. The stunts are pretty dialed in, and it's calm and it's easy to do. And you're like, I think they finally started hiring the right people. If I'm offending singers and dancers and actors, I apologize. But they finally started hiring motorcycle guys and jet ski guys and car guys. And still to this day, James, when a producer talks about stunt adjustments to me or I'm getting paid too much, you're paying for my experience in my 37 years of doing stunts. That show, the reason they didn't have so many injuries is they started hiring the right people, and they just made Disney look good because they were good at their job. Like, Alan D'Antoni and Crystal Hooks. They're incredible stunt people. They got the right motorcycle, cars, and stunt people in that show, finally. And it was all casting. And they're like, yeah, we're dialing down the money. We're dialing down the stunt adjustments. We're not doing that stuff anymore. Well, they got lucky, and whoever put that show together, casting-wise, hired the right people. And that's why it was such a great show.
You mentioned 1994. So I went and worked for summer camps for 6 summers. And the first year after working up in New York State, I went all the way down to Florida on a trip. We got, I think, about like a month in our visa before we had to go home, and found myself in the Disney and Universal, and was in Universal. And I had one of those little Polaroid 110 cameras, a little kind of dumbbell shaped thing that you put inside, and saw the Miami Vice stunt show. And right when I'm just taking a picture of the show, the boat goes through the shed and it explodes. And with this tiny, crappy little camera, I've got this amazing picture of someone jump in the boat. And it might be Kyle, our mutual friend.
Oh, right. Yeah. What's funny is only a few people did that.
Really?
Yeah. 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 They I think Kyle and maybe Mike Massa and maybe a handful of other guys, Hank Amos, there weren't too many people that did that because, it was a big pipe ramp out in the middle of the lake, and the explosions, when you went through there, those guys were in full fire safety suits with helmets and gloves, and it was an inferno they went through. And it was a big jump, too. For a live show to do that every night, they needed people, and they got the right people in there. I don't think anybody ever missed. I don't think anybody ever got hurt doing that. But once again, too many stunt people in that show, too much pyro, too expensive, took it out.
Yeah. To this day, they've never done anything good with that.
It was a great show. I did that show too. I loved it.
I've dreamed of doing a James Bond stunt show. Even when I was doing the Bourne show, I'm asking, like, when are we going to do James Bond? It's like the biggest franchise ever,
Yes.
Perfect for stunts. Yeah. I mean, if you're a British stunt guy, that was the thing that you wanted to work on. But I just saw in the paper, I think it's 2030, there's going to be a Universal in the UK. And they're going to have a James Bond stunt show, but I'm going to be too freaking old in the wrong country by then.
You go over there as a stunt coordinator or a technical advisor.
Yeah, I'm not well versed enough. I'm just tell me where to go, tell me where to fall, who've I got to hit, and that's about it. I hit my ceiling a long time ago.
Yeah, I read that, but they're running into problems with too many theme parks, too many stunt shows, and not enough talent.
Oh, really?
Especially if they put a Waterworld stunt show in there, because the Wisconsin Dells ski spectacular in Wisconsin is no more. The Cypress Garden ski show in Florida is no more. Where do you find water skiers? There's no water ski stunt shows anymore. So there's a Waterworld stunt show in Singapore, one in China, one in Japan, and one in Hollywood. They all need jet skiers. Stand up, hardly anybody rides a stand-up jet ski anymore. They need water skiers that can do this tremendous, huge, crazy jump behind a jet ski to start the show. Where are they going to get all that people? Where are they going to get them all? So it becomes a challenge of, if you can't find them, start a training center to get them up to that. And it's a monumental task now. Another whole theme park with more stunt shows. It's going to be hard.
I was talking to, God, I'm blanking on his name now. I'm so sorry. But it was one of the stunt doubles from The Fall Guy. And it'll come to me in a minute, Justin. And saying that when I was young, I had the book on how to be a British stuntman. Because I watched the original Fall Guy as a kid. And that was one of my goals, was to be a stunt guy. But at the time, you had to be like a black belt in several martial arts and, this level, gymnast, this level, high diver, motorcycle. I mean, it was so huge. And I'm sure it was to protect the industry by putting these crazy standards to make sure it wasn't saturated. But I wonder what that looks like now, because if the young stunt performers have to get to all these levels before they can work in a theme park or British television, I
Oh
mean,
yeah.
it's a lot. It's a huge amount. It would cost a lot of money, and you'd have to take several years to get through it, like full time.
Yeah, I could put myself in that predicament right now when I came out here. And also, I could put my son in that right now. My 22-year-old is now working at the Waterworld Stunt Show at Universal Studios. And now he's going through that because, and I talk to him about this all the time. What is your skill level? What are you good at? What if they had a big movie coming and there's specific gags? Are they, oh, that's Shane Gray. How does your name ever come up? What are you good at? What are you known for? What are you famous or infamous for? When I moved here, James, it was incredibly intimidating because I had no idea the talent out here. Because here's Jason Gray, big theme park stunt guy in Florida, the big fish in the little pond. I could do Indiana Jones, the Wild West show. I was doing high falls, but they weren't high falls. I could do big giant rope swings, but they weren't big giant rope swings. They were just mediocre. Because we go back to what I said earlier, they have to be stunts that can be done over and over every day. They don't have to be huge, extravagant stunts. Then I could ride a horse, and I grew up riding mini bikes and go-karts and lassoing calves illegally on the farm and stuff like that. So I came out here thinking I'm going to do great. But then you run into, can you do a backflip? This is Danny Smith. He's a 2-time NCAA champion from Minnesota. And I'm like, oh, crap. Oh, you can ride a horse? This is Tad Griffith. He's a third-generation cowboy. I'm like, dang, there's hundreds of them. Oh, you do high falls? What's your highest high fall? I've done 60, 70 feet. Oh, this is Steve Shriver. He does 150-foot high falls. You are out here with the best in the world. And when you bring that theme park mediocre stunts that almost any guy can do or girl, it's intimidating. And I had to find my niche, or have Hollywood find my niche, and it turned out to be a fire burn coordinator and a rigger and a stunt coordinator and an actor. It wasn't any big. I'm not known for being an expert at anything. And that's what my son is riding into right now. What are you, a professional surfboard guy, a skier? Are you a jet skier? Do you race jet skis? Are you nationally known? Are you a world champion high fall guy, martial artist? What are you? Because everybody out here is a 4th-degree black belt in karate, judo, high divers. I mean, I got my PADI certification. I've scuba dived all over the Bahamas growing up in Florida, but out here you got master divers that have a garage full of gear that spend their whole life underwater. You're not going to compete with that. You're not going to compete against a 3rd-generation cowboy that's roping steers and on a team roping team. I don't rope. I'm not a cowboy. So my resume, my skill level stuff went from this big at the bottom of my headshot resume down to about like that. It's a tough business to crack out here. And I think the turning point for me was when I really got after it and took acting classes, because you are in the Screen Actors Guild and you miss out on half work if you're just concentrating on stunts. So, I've got 15, 20 credits in film and TV just by taking acting classes and having a decent agent sending me out and getting little acting roles, stunt acting roles. And doing fire burns and rigging came in real handy. I was a pretty decent rigger for about 15 years. And then, don't always just try to get film and TV work. I went out on the commercial and music video thing for years and made a lot of money doing that. So there's a lot of other venues for work out here. There are big feature guys that do nothing but features, but they're never home. So I'm kind of a family guy. I like to be home. And you just got to find your niche. What is it? Sometimes you don't get to choose. Hollywood chooses it for you. So when I came out here, it was pretty rough. It took me 4 or 5 years to get going. And I regressed and auditioned for the Batman show here. And I did Batman, which sucked. And then I did the Spider-Man show at Universal, which sucked. I came out here to do film and TV, and I had to feed my family. So luckily, I could still do the live shows, no problem. But I had my SAG card. I wanted to do film and TV, but I found a whole nother market, music videos and commercials and YouTube now and Facebook meta commercials. I do everything and I stay busy. So you can't just focus on film and TV. There's lots of other aspects, different mediums you can do. And so now my son's going through the stunt business. So just treat it like a business. It is show business, right? And you're the product. So squeaky wheel gets the grease. You can't just sit at home and wait for the phone to ring because there's 200 other guys just like you out here, man.
When I came out of drama school, we did the showcase at the end, and I actually had someone from William Morris. I think it was two agents. It was one of two that actually came up to me after and said, "We're interested in you." And they said, "But the people that would be handling, your type of character, whatever it would be, they would need to see your work as well. So let us know when you get a part, and we'll come see you." Great. Awesome. So I'm in London, and then I start auditioning, and then I realized that you can't get a role without an agent, and you can't get an agent without a role. And I was stuck in this revolving door. And I wasn't a good actor. I was not as funny. The stunts were, it was obviously the way I was supposed to go from that point of view. But then when I got to Universal, and got into the stunt world and realized, wow, this is another entire profession that I could really get into. To your point, I start learning about hustling and, that you got to go on set and all this stuff. And by that point, I was already becoming a firefighter. So I ended up just doing the theme park stuff because it was part-time. I could go on shift and I could do, the Terminator show or the stunt show or the pirate show on my days off. But talk to me about that element. When you move and, like you said, big fish in a little pond, and now you're out there, especially back in that time, what did you need to do to be able to put yourself in front of the right people, even sometimes on the set itself?
I really, I think the word is hustle. I really, really had to hustle. And my wife, God bless her, she's a singer, dancer, actress. She's a theater rat, and she understands showbiz and entertainment. And she would, every day, Monday through Friday, she'd pack me a lunch and say, go hustle. And I'd be gone 8 hours a day, 5 days a week, going from set to set to set. I never missed a party invite. I always wish somebody a happy birthday on their birthday. If they invited me to their kid's birthday party, I went to that. I went to weddings. I joined a softball league, a bowling stunt league. Man, I had nobody. I'm not a second generation stuntman like my son. I'm a first generation. I didn't hardly know anybody except the Florida Mafia. And some of them guys are starting to thank God for people like Mike Massa and Scott Workman and Mark Chadwick. They started working me and giving me jobs here and there. And I just really, really had to keep my nose to the grindstone. I had to hustle, call, text. If that was a thing back then, I'm not sure. Or maybe I had a beeper. I don't know. But I got a stunt calling service. I got an agent. I started going to auditions. And then you meet tons of people at the audition, the cattle calls. You go there and there'd be me and you and 30 other guys that look like us. And, you'd visit with them and meet people, and you'd meet. And then they would introduce you to somebody. And then sometimes you look like an actor and they'd snag you whether you had the skill to do it or not. Oh, you look just like John Hamm. You're going to double him on this. Like, oh, I've never done that before, but I'll work on it. Then you start training and going to people's houses. Different people have different training stuff at their house. Fire burns. Some people have high fall towers. Some guys do fight stuff. They got punching bags and boxing gloves. And I learned film fighting. I learned rigging. I learned fire burns. I just really got after it. So it was a good, hard, long 5 years, I want to say. And then finally I got into one of the Hollywood stunt organizations out here, the International Stunt Association. And then my career really took off. Then it was to the point, James, where you get to where you can turn down work. Oh, I'm on this show. I can't. Oh, are you available this day? No, I'm working. And then that felt really good. So I went through that for like 15 years. That was awesome. And that's because I was in this group, and we have senior members that are mentoring me, and I'm mentoring them and bouncing stuff off of them, and they're bouncing stuff off of me. And we have a clubhouse, we have regular meetings, and that's when I knew I made it finally. But it wasn't fun the first 5 years, I can tell you that. Maybe it was fun, but I treated it like a business. And it comes back to that hard work ethic, growing up in the Midwest, and then having the discipline from the military to keep track of stuff and keep a open mind and just persevere and push through and keep going. But there were doubts when I was like, why did I listen to those guys in Florida and get into stunts? This wasn't my goal in life. I was never wanting to be a stuntman. And then they just kind of nudged me that way. And I had points like, God, that turning point in Florida, why didn't I stick to my guns and go this way? My degree I was going to be a broadcaster. I wanted to be a sports commentator or something, or a journalist, or go out and shoot news. I wanted to work in the news business, and I went the stunt route. And man, when I moved out here, I had doubts with my career choice, and then hard work trumps everything, man. At least that's what I tell my kids.
Yeah, no, I agree. One of the things that really struck me, I had a period where I did do some work. I was on really a glorified extra. It wasn't stunt work for the World Trade Center movie with Nicolas Cage, and they wanted real firefighters out in LA. So my ex at the time, Michelle, you remember her? She had seen it on Central Casting, whatever it was, and so I ended up getting some of my firefighter friends from Anaheim, and we went there. And it was like you said about the cattle call. It was great because there were LA firefighters, there were Long Beach firefighters, and we were just shooting the shit the whole time.
Yep.
But it was, what I realized is just how slow it was. Now this is again not stunt work. This is the acting side, but coming from being on stage in the pirate show in Terminator, whatever it is, where it's a live show, and the moment you do a stunt or whatever it is, there's the oohing and the ahhing and the clapping at the end, and you're kind of you're under pressure because if you make a mistake, the whole room sees it. There's no cut either. Yeah, and contrasting that to the camera stuff, to me at that time in my life, I was like, oh, this is kind of like it's a totally different world. It was almost like disappointing because I thought there'd be a faster pace to it. Yeah. With you doing stunts and doing all the live shows too, what was your kind of impression once you started working on these bigger productions?
I just being on the farm, there was working in the town, whatever jobs I had, it was immediate and you get it done and you were busy. And then the live shows, you're busy, and then you go back and reset. But man, being on a film set took a while. You get there at 8 a.m. and they go, okay, it's lunch. And you're like, well, yeah. It was really hard to make it. I thought we had to make it look like we were busy all the time. I was doing busy work, moving a pad here and then moving it back and then tying a rope and then untying it and, just staying busy. And all the other stunt guys are standing around talking. I would hate to be a producer, walk on set and everybody standing around doing nothing. So I would always keep busy, and man, the days are just long. And then at 2 a.m, okay, we're ready for the fight scene. Let's go, Jason. Get ready. You're next. I'm like, it's 2 a.m. I've been here for 10 hours. I haven't done anything. That took a long time to get used to, James. Wasted time. Unless you're on a show where you're the stunt coordinator and helping the rigging team and you're putting together fights and you're organizing, you're going to meetings and you're doing paperwork, and then you're busy and the day goes by really fast. But if you're just one of the utility guys and your shot's not up for 4 shots, what are you going to do for the next 6 hours? And not you. My guys, when I'm running shows, I go, you guys stay busy, and if there's nothing for you to do, hide, go somewhere else. I don't want to see you. I don't want to see my guys standing around doing nothing ever. Because they could say, hey, Jason, you said you needed 4 riggers. They're not doing anything. The next show, my producer will say, hey, you get 2 riggers. And you can rig too, Jason. You're one of the riggers. I'm like, thanks a lot. So don't stand around. But first few shows took a while to figure out, is this, I don't know what the word is this legal? We can just stand around and do nothing until our shot's up? They're paying us to sit around and do nothing? Oh, when we're ready to work, though, you better be ready to work. But yeah, it's so boring. Next thing you know, people are playing cards. You're taking an illegal nap, sleeping on the stunt pads. I don't like that. I never did that. No matter how tired I was, I'd never sleep on a mat in front of everybody. But it's slow, isn't it, being on a set? It's slow and boring, and you're watching the actors, and it takes 2 hours to set up a shot. And, we started back when it was film. And they didn't waste film through the camera. Now they shoot everything because it's video. But they were real meticulous. It would take forever to set up a shot because they didn't want to run film through that camera unless they had to. And then you get 2 good takes, and that's it. So, but now it's, I've done 3 or 4 fire burns. Like, don't you guys have it? Well, we're gonna shoot. We're gonna keep filming, keep going. We got video. We can shoot everything. We can shoot it over and over and over. Like, crap.
When I talk to people in the industry at the moment, and we spoke before I hit record, I'm just like the very, very beginning, baby step into trying to make my books into TV shows. And I hear about the struggles at the moment of the industry, and we have all these great what were film actors that are now doing TV shows, which isn't a step down. I mean, the medium has changed, but you hear about the hundreds of millions of dollars of some of these budgets, and again, all the standing around. If you were king for a day, what are the inefficiencies that would take away some of the wasted time and even the wasted budget, and therefore make some of these productions more affordable for people?
I think it's the film industry has gotten so complicated that you have a lot of cooks in the kitchen. So this big, huge Disney project I just did, you had a director who had something to say. You had the performance coach had something to say between takes. And you have a visual effects coordinator that had stuff. And they would go around. If any of your listeners know anything about visual effects, it's you got to put tape everywhere for depth of perception. You got the silver ball. You got the guys in the green suits. You got different lighting than you would get on a normal set. So there's just a lot of stuff they have to check now. And, if you watch a big action movie, if you sit through the credits, there's about 5 minutes worth of visual effects credits. And all those people have different, like maybe he's in charge of Thor and he's in charge of Wonder Woman, and this team is in charge of the little raccoon if they were talking about the Avenger movies. And each one of those guys might have a representative there. So now you got 10 different visual effects company from Singapore to South Korea to Mexico to Los Angeles, stopping the filming and asking questions and moving stuff around. And sometimes actors get confused because they're on a green screen with nothing around, nothing to refer to, nothing to look at. Oh, the monster's right over here. And then you got to jump on that speedster that's over there. And they're like, where is it again? And they head off in the wrong direction. The visual effects guy goes, I need him to go this way. So everything's changed. It's complicated. That's why I like working on simple stuff. And I think that's why a lot of your A-list actors go to TV. They don't like the 12, 14, 16-hour film and TV day, feature film days. It's long. It lasts 3 or 4 months. I mean, you can just go to a TV and you're not, and if you're on a TV show and you're the lead actor, you're not in every scene. Some days you don't even have to go to work. Well, we're shooting all this stuff out in the desert, Brad. You're not in these scenes. You just come in Wednesday, Thursday. Well, a feature film, you might have to come in every day because you got a fitting, you got a meeting, you got to deal with the green screen stuff, you got to learn props, you got to learn this sword fight. So I think a lot of big feature people get burned out. One example is Keira Knightley. She did, 4 pirate movies? She was burned out. So she took it easy and got married and had kids and stepped away for a while. And I think that's what happens to filmmakers. They step back and maybe they do a commercial or they take on a TV show. They think it's easier. It's a different process. It's a little bit more relaxed, and most of the time you're in a controlled environment on a soundstage when you do TV. Not as many cooks in the kitchen either. Not as many visual effects. So that's just my opinion.
I feel like the TV medium has become so popular because now you're not forced to tell a story in an hour and a half and 2 hours as well. So even from a creative point of view, we're just watching Euphoria at the moment. And I mean, that's such an incredible show. The Pit. I mean, there's so many other areas. How do you cram that into 90 minutes? And so by, like you said, making it more efficient, making it better for the lifestyles of the cast and crew, because I think the behind the scenes for The Fall Guy did a great job of showing, it was through COVID as well, but showing the impact of them being away on their families. And, they almost talked about the mental health side. But I think that, the streaming has made it, I think, more exciting to me as a viewer now, because like Band of Brothers is a perfect example, even though that was pre-streaming. You now have 8 or 10 episodes to really tell the story of these incredible men rather than, trying to squeeze it into 2 hours.
I think that's true. And then I think Hollywood's just running out of ideas. We're just regurgitating so many things. Like Rockford Files is coming back and Baywatch is coming back, and they did a Dukes of Hazzard movie. I mean, they just regurgitate old TV shows and try to make them into movies, and they're just running out of ideas, or they're going the cheap route and trying to cut out the writers, maybe. I don't know. But going back to safety, if you're on a feature film for 14, 15 hours and you get off at 4 a.m. and drive home and hit an embankment and kill yourself, that's not even close to being worth it. That's just an absolute tragedies that should never, ever happen. No person should ever be forced to work that many hours and then try to drive home and be back in again at noon the next day. It's awful. And that's why they have, if you're outside of Los Angeles 30 miles, the TMZ, that means the 30-mile zone, they have to offer you a hotel. That's just one of the safety elements. And they're training up more safety advisors. So now it's going to be, instead of one safety advisor for the whole movie, one's going to be in pre-production with the construction workers. One's assigned to the stunts. One's assigned to special effects. You might have 4 or 5 safety advisors on a movie in California now. The Film Commission has started a safety advisory board, and they're training up more safety people. So hopefully on these feature films, which I think knocks down the quality, and people don't want to do those big movies anymore. They want to go to TV and just come in and work 8 to 5 Monday through Friday on a soundstage. It seems a little bit safer.
Yeah, absolutely. If the results are the same, you get this fantastic, TV series, because some of the stuff that is on television now is phenomenal. There's a lot of shit still. There's a lot of shit being made on the film side as well. But my goodness, some of the television, Dope Sick and Euphoria and The Wire and The Pit, and there's some really, really incredible television, not just the stories themselves, but the script, the acting, I mean, everything. So that's what can be made if we just stop diluting the industry by making all the crappy stuff.
Yeah, diluting. Exactly. And if a big feature film hits, what do immediately? Sequel. That movie made. That's why I was just on Jumanji back in February. They filmed that here in town, a lot of it. And, they didn't expect to come back. They finished the story, and there they are again, Jumanji 3, because it made $900 million. Of course you're going to do a sequel. I don't know how good it's going to be, but I just think that they're all money grabs. And that's why the quality is not there. And I think for them to make that kind of money, maybe you went to the movie and got suckered in like everybody else and didn't like it. But that's why it went up to 900. Everybody went thinking it was going to be great. And I don't know. I just don't think sequels are the way. I think those are just money grabs every single time. And now they're starting to realize every studio has a streaming channel now. Every studio. And that's where it's going to go. So you're going to enjoy movies at home on your 70-inch TV screen. That's going to be the movie experience. So everybody's getting a popcorn maker and a soda maker at home, and they got the big TV, and you can watch anything you want at home. Don't have to fight the crowds or pay $20 to go see a movie. Just go stream it on your TV at home. That's one thing we're fighting. That's tough because it's hard to get royalties and residuals from those streaming channels. You never see anything. It's on the back end. Oh, you're working on a Mandalorian today, Jason. It's a Disney Plus streaming channel. You'll never see anything on the back end of that.
So why is that? Why is it that royalties were such a big thing when it was the film side, but now you hear so many struggles when it comes to that streaming side?
Because the producers don't want to share that money. They got to split that pie with 90 stunt guys on a movie or a gazillion ADs. I think ADs get residuals, so do producers, so the actors, and so the stunt people. But, they find if they go to overseas to Australia or England or Romania or New Zealand, there's no such thing as the royalties. So, and the unions aren't as strong as they are here. They can, an IATSE or a Teamster union can make or break a movie here. They really get after you. They're really strong unions, unlike the SAG Guild, which is probably the weakest guild in Hollywood, weakest union. But those other unions really have a heavy hand when they do negotiations, and I think that's what's driving it overseas. But hopefully all the people working overseas see what we're making and what we're doing, and they start complaining and wanting residuals and more money and stronger unions. That's what we're banking on, and hopefully some of that stuff comes home, but maybe not in my lifetime.
So I had Olivia Jackson on. Did you ever heard of her? She was on Resident Evil and doing a motorcycle stunt, and the boom operator of the camera coming across didn't raise the camera. So she, basically was almost killed, lost, one side of her body, basically, pretty much. Phenomenal, but
she's
that is the danger.
Chick.
Yeah, exactly. But the danger in this profession, you've got the Alex Baldwin incident. You've got Brandon Lee.
Awful. That was terrible. I
So what
think
have you
that
seen as far as the evolution of safety, and what if you want to talk about them, some of the tragedies that are still happening that maybe need to be addressed?
I can only speak California because I filmed in Oklahoma and Oregon and Montana and Canada and Mexico and Hawaii and Boston and Atlanta. And I can only speak on California, but we've really ramped up our safety out here. The California Film Commission has said that from now on, I was just talking about the safety advisors. They have a class that you have to go through for like a week. It's like a 72-hour, 80-hour course to be a safety advisor, and they're putting more and more on the set. They won't shut you down, but there's a lot more questions, and you gotta go to more meetings, and you got to show a safety protocol now and a risk assessment on everything you do in California. Now, that being said, we're ramping up safety, but that's chasing people away also. We're just, oh, California's too strict. Oh, you got to jump through too many hoops, and getting insured and bonded and trying to get a permit there is harder now because of all their safety protocols. So it's a paradox, isn't it? Try to make it safer, and the producer's like, oh, this paperwork, this red tape, this bureaucracy's killing me. I'm going, Baywatch almost went to Australia. So Rockford Files left. It went to Atlanta. It's a show based on Hollywood. Rockford is his camper is on the beach in California. Everything is California, Hollywood sign, all that stuff is all his shows, but they don't care. They went to Atlanta because of all the bureaucracy and the red tape. But I mean, maybe it's not all safety issues that's chasing people away, but we are cracking down on safety. And I haven't seen too many bad injuries and stuff, people getting hurt in the last 5 or 6 years, except for a few unfortunate mishaps up in the catwalk where a missing plank was in the catwalk and a guy went right through it. And another guy was leaning over, didn't have a harness on, was tying a silk and fell off over the rail to the ground. I don't know if he made it or not. So we're having some crew safety problems out here, but I think that's maybe 2 or 3 instances in the last 5 years. But stunt-wise, I haven't heard too many bad accidents out here that didn't make the news, that weren't newsworthy, except at Waterworld when the guy flat-backed doing this fire dive 46 feet to the ground. Yeah, blew out his lungs, and he had to go get him. He knocked himself out. That's about the only bad stunt accident I've heard of in the last few years out here. So I hope I didn't jinx it.
That's an impressive fall too. I know you mentioned Steve Shriver and some of the other guys that we had in Japan. That was 46 foot fall on fire with sometimes the wind at your back as well.
Yep, and you got the flames wrapping around, and you got to do a branny, a front flip with a half twist, and you got the flames wrapped around, and you got a fake eye patch on because you're doubling the lead guy, the deacon character, and that's no picnic. It's hard to find people that can do that job. So, and like I said, you keep expanding the parks, needing more and more specialty jet skiers and fire divers. It's hard to find. It's not something you can teach in 1 week. 46 feet is no picnic. You land in water wrong on your back or your face, you're gonna go to the hospital. It's gonna hurt. It's like concrete almost. So I've heard.
I found out a little bit just being a water skier, not a phenomenal water skier by any means, but when you cut and then you're going
crashes.
Fast, and you wake up and your bell's being rung and you thank God that you got a life jacket on.
Yep, exactly. I did that when I was learning to water ski in Florida behind a jet ski. I've had a few wrecks, and I'm okay. But then the adrenaline wears off, and a couple of days later, you're sore. Like, what's wrong with me? I can't do the stunt show today. My legs hurt, my neck. The water ski accident. Yeah, that water is not soft.
Speaking of Japan, you've worked in the Florida theme parks, and you moved to LA, and you're working on sets. How did you find yourself being brought over to Universal Studios? And then what were the idiosyncrasies that were interesting? Because I know as a performer with Michelle, for example, she did the roller skating show, and the California/Florida protocols were like, if what they say, if it rains, then you have to go in the under the roof space. but they didn't have snow in LA or Florida, so there was no snow protocol. So the Japanese would make them skate around in the snow because it didn't say in the handbook, you have to do it with snow.
So without calling out the Japanese people, God bless their soul, you get a few licenses and you just use common sense in Florida and with the theme parks. But John Zimmerman, our mentor, took me over there because of my organizational skills, not my stunt prowess. He goes, I need you to write all the safety protocols like you always do the checklist before every show. And I said, I want a stunt captain at every show. So I assigned a stunt captain at every show. Steve Shriver was my stunt captain at Waterworld and my spy. And I went over there for my organizational skills. So I understand the Japanese people were strictly to the book, but man, they were worse than I was. It was really difficult, wasn't it, James? If they would have their book and you'd say, oh, that's okay, he can do that. And then if it snows, they shouldn't do a show. It's too dangerous. It's slick. And they're like, there's nothing in the book that says you can't do the skating in the snow. And you're like, well, put that book down and look at me. I'm telling you, I'm the stunt coordinator for the park. That's not safe, or do yourself a favor and do this. And they're like, we don't see it in the book. So yeah, they were so strict by the book, but they're just such nice people and such hard workers. But I think they were the epitome of, when you say going by the book, that's those Japanese stage managers, man. God bless them. I mean, yeah, it was tough. And some of them didn't speak any English, so I always had an interpreter with me, and I would just start talking to them, and they're like, wait. So I learned to speak one sentence and then interpret it, and then speak one sentence and interpret it. And finally, we were able to communicate and get stuff dialed in. And I was trying to tell them, just trust me. Here's this checklist. Here's your SOP. Go by that. And you got to kind of think outside the box, outside that book. And I think after we all left, after a couple of years, we'd go back and check on them and do auditions and train up new people. And I think after we left, they went back to being by the book, is what I heard.
Yeah, they did. They did. Yeah, one of the other skaters shattered her wrist because I think they hadn't let them wear wrist guards. And these are, roller skaters in this time snow. Yeah,
those aren't
she was
part
a
of your
gymnast
costume.
before.
Sorry. Yeah.
Yeah.
God.
Well, they also are so respectful as far as chain of command hierarchy that they don't want to question anything culturally.
Yep.
So I understood that completely, but it was sometimes literally at the detriment of safety.
Yeah, here's the supervisor and here's the stage manager. You see which one bows lower than the other, and then you know which one's in charge. Yeah. Oh, he's your boss. Yes. Oh, okay. Yeah. Still a fun gig. Great people. Yeah, and I think we put together one of the best stunt teams in the world for a theme park opening. I think we hired 155 people all over the world. Did a year and a half of touring, auditioning people, and then went over to Japan. What was that, January? Or when did you guys come over? January of 2001?
Well, we got there literally 11:30 on New Year's Eve on 2000. So we ran down to the Ferris wheel down there right for Happy New Year. So yeah, we were literally the day before. But yeah, basically 2001 was our first year.
Right on the ocean, cold as hell. I thought Japan was tropical, but that's down in Okinawa. So we went through some snow and some sleet and some rain and some fog. And when did we open? Like April or May of that year. So it was a good 4 or 5 months of training and testing stuff. And then we finally opened, and they're still open to this day, doing well, I think.
Yeah. Well, we had Julia, who was directing. Kyle was our go-to stunt guy that you sent to T2.
Yeah.
But we were incredibly fortunate that Julia brought Captain Dale Dye over.
Yeah,
we did
you guys went through boot camp?
Yeah, short boot camp.
Yeah.
So talk to me about working with him and that military element of the stunts that you've worked on.
Oh, we got along great. I love the guy because I've seen him in the movies. Part of his contract was I'll come out and train Tom Cruise and put these band of brothers through boot camp and training, but I want an acting part. So they'd always give him an acting part. So you knew who Dale Dye was because you saw him on TV all the time. And for a Marine who's seen combat, he sure is the nicest guy in the world. He's not all business either. He'll talk to you about anything you want to talk about. And besides using him in Japan, my wife also went through his boot camp when they opened the Terminator stunt show here in Hollywood. So she got to go through his boot camp as well and told me some stories. So we both had working relationships with him, and it was pleasant both times. I mean, he's thorough. You better do what he says, and it's funny how he makes you speak the language, like, the hoo-ah and yes, sir, and yes, drill sergeant. And yeah, he makes you go through all, and he'll tell you, he's your commanding officer when I'm not here. Stuff like that. He would put people in charge, and he was a lieutenant and he was in charge of this platoon. It was all militaristic, wasn't it, James? I mean, it was, and you're in it and you're like, what's this guy? I mean, we're not in the military, but you had to buy into that training,
Yeah.
I heard stories from Saving Private Ryan. Tom Sizemore was just not into that boot camp at all. He couldn't stand him. But if you bought into all that and did what he told you and salute and yes, sir, and listen to the assignments and do what you're told, I think he came out of that a much better person. And I always, we went out and had drinks and went out to dinner and just found him the nicest, most fascinating, coolest military advisor I ever met.
Absolutely. Well, I'm hoping he's going to be working on my show. They've said that they will. It's just making the show part. That still hasn't been done yet, but
I can put you in touch with Charles Courier. We're still pretty close to this day. We did the Batman show together out here 20 years ago, and we've been buddies ever since. He was his military advisor on what's that Colin Farrell movie where he played some big military leader, back in the 1200s. I don't know if it was Genghis Khan or something like that. Okay. But he did the Pacific, Band of Brothers. He's been on all that. Wherever Dale Dye's been, this guy's been with him. So, yeah, he knows his stuff too.
Yeah, they've already committed. Yeah, they've given me a letter of intent already. So,
for heaven's sakes, that's fantastic! Congrats.
Thank you. So, but it's, like I said, that's nothing until I actually get the anchor points to get this thing moving. But yeah, he was on when they released Masters of the Air. And hearing it, going back to the boot camp, seeing the camaraderie that we had just after, I think it was 3 days we did, when they deliberately withheld David Schwimmer in Band of Brothers or Matt Damon in Saving Private Ryan, and the animosity that caused, you can see it on film. I mean, it was so clever how I think Schwimmer, they just kept making excuses. Like he wasn't able to come today. And Band of Brothers especially, you salute the rank, not the man. I mean, that anyone listening can relate to that if they've ever worked under a shitty chief.
Yeah. Hey, Captain Sorbo. He's trying not to salute him. He goes, hey, salute the rank, not the man. Oh, that's funny. That was a great scene. I watch that show every time it comes on, Veterans Day week. I watch it. As a matter of fact, I bet I DVR'd it, and I could watch it anytime. It's still on my DVR. I just love that show. But that Dale, I think he started did he start with oh gosh, I can't even think. Help me out here. The Vietnam movie with Willem Dafoe. Platoon.
Yeah.
Yeah. And he's come a long way since then. I mean, he's been around for a long time. He's got it dialed in. I don't see anybody making a military movie without him,
Yeah.
He's just so good at what he does, and his team, they're just incredible. What are they called? Something Warriors Inc. I think it's just Warriors Inc.
Yes, that's it.
But you got to go through his boot camp, man, or he's not going to help you. If you bail out like Sizemore did, I don't think he helped him at all. I don't know if he did. And then Sizemore was incredible. He's a great actor anyway. He was great in Black Hawk Down too, but I don't know if Dale had anything to do with that movie.
Yeah, I'm not sure. Well, what about you? What have been some of the most notable stunts in your career up to this point?
Well, I've set up maybe 400 fire burns in the last 20 years, and I've probably been on fire a handful of times, always the bridesmaid, never the bride. I'm most proud of some of the gags I've set up and coordinated, a lot of big ratchets, a lot of big fire burns, a lot of big fight scenes and melee. I did a big ratchet out the window tied to a chair on Ghostbusters. I've done numerous car hits and stair falls. No big, huge gags that were death-defying that, made a name for myself. None of those. I don't even think I would even consider those. I mean, for me to do a big stunt gag and be featured, I have to be pretty sure I'm not going to get hurt doing it. So, I mean, I've had calls like that, and I'm like, I'm not the guy. We need you to do a 60-foot high fall into a trash compactor. Well, you got like a foot on either side of the. I'm like, nah, that's a little too precise for me. You might want to get somebody like Steve Shriver. Done lots of car hits. I've done a pretty gnarly car hit with my hands handcuffed behind my back, and the props guy gave me these plastic ones, and I go, "Oh, I'm gonna break those, and I'm only doing this once." And he's like, "What?" And I go, I want real handcuffs." And he goes, "Okay, you're not gonna come out of them. You won't be able to brace yourself." I said, "I know. I've thought about this exactly in my head how I'm gonna do it, and I did it perfectly and landed. And the handcuffs got even tighter when I hit the ground. So, but they couldn't hardly get them off. But if I had plastic ones, I just thought I would do it and then snap, and we wouldn't get the shot. I only wanted to do the car hit once. So I asked for reelies, and that was a pretty cool gag. I've done lots of ratchets, lots of fire burns, lots of car hits, like I said, stuff that everybody else does, but not big, huge. I think the one I'm most proud of is being tied to that chair on Ghostbusters when Bill Murray gets thrown out the window on Ghostbusters with all the girls. That was pretty fun. That was a gnarly gag.
Speaking of handcuffs, I remember like several times that you've posted that you keep getting typecast as a cop. And it's funny because when I did the World Trade Center film, I got all these other firefighter friends of mine, and they almost didn't use me. And I was like, what do you mean?
What do they see you as?
Well, they said they look too Californian. I'm like, I'm from England. What are you talking about? But I realized that maybe the Hollywood casting isn't quite as open-minded as I thought. And if you don't look Italian or Irish, which I would, argue I'm not Italian, but definitely Irish, then you don't fit the stereotypical firefighter look, even though we were literally silhouettes in the background when we actually, when it went to the editing room. Talk to me about that. The typecasting element is it hard to break from a certain type once you get put in that box?
Yeah, I think that it goes back to saying, I think sometimes when you're just above average stunt guy out here in a land of 6,000 stunt guys, that sometimes you don't get to choose what Hollywood sees you as. They choose you. And I think it came to the point where every time I walk into an audition, I would walk kind of marching, and I'd stand at attention, or they'd say, relax, I'm messing with the camera, and I'd stand at parade rest, just stupid stuff like that. And it got me lots of work on, The Patriot and Jonah Hex. I played Civil War guys, and G.I. Joe 1, G.I. Joe 2. So I always got those military jobs because I think it's the way I walked into the audition. I already had it and then next thing you know, I'm a cop, I'm a firefighter, Civil War guy, a Revolutionary guy, I'm a security guard, I'm a Coast Guard guy. And I was like, okay, I put together a composite 15 years ago with me in all these different military and cop uniforms and firefighter. And that's what my headshot was. 5 composites of me doing all these pararescue, Coast Guard jumper. I had my scuba suit on and my flute and my Coast Guard stuff on. I had my military G.I. Joe uniform on. I had my Navy SEAL stuff with my gun. And I just started sending those out, and boom, I just started working all the time, playing ND utility stunt guys on all these SWAT TV shows and military movies. So it was a good move. And Hollywood did that for me. Just by the way, I think I carried myself. I'm not sure. And then I have tried growing my hair out, growing a goatee, and going for those bad guy roles. Didn't work because I wanted to try, and then my wife hated the long hair, and the goatee, and I just tried different things trying to play a bad guy, and I never got any of those roles. So I stick to what Hollywood picked for me, and you'll be fine. But I understand when actors try to, Ben Stiller plays a comedy for 30 years and he wants to play a bad guy or something, and the movie bombs. I'll stick to what everybody knows you as. So that's what I did. I stuck to it.
What did you play in the pirate show? Which character?
Oh, geez. I don't know. Oh, you know what I did for that show? I never was in the pirate show. I did the 2 shows out on the street. That was probably before your time. Out there on the street, there was a motorcycle stunt show. I did the motorcycle jump and the high fall. And then there was a Viking pre-show fight that I did. But I was busy helping Zimmerman put that show together, and they just needed people outside for the pre-show. Believe it or not, That was a studio, a fake studio where that pirate show is now. They had all the acres around it. They did a tram. They bought a tram, James, and did a tram ride. And they wanted to make, it was called the Pirate Something Studios from Spain. And those two owners had a tram ride that the guests would ride around. They come around to us and we do this big Viking fight. And then the other part of the show was this back lot where there was all these sets and we did a motorcycle high fall scene. So I did all that. I put in the pirate show, but I did the pre-show, what we called the tram ride tour stunt shows at that park. It's not even a park. It's a dinner show, right? Just a little arena, right? Well, they owned everything around it, and they just put in stupid-looking flats and backdrops for Roman Town was like 2 buildings, and then a Wild West building was a saloon and a jail, and it was really rinky-dink. But back in the day when they opened that, it was a studio, and I put the pirate show in, but I did the pre-show stuff for the tram ride. It was silly. They paid well though. They just didn't know what they're doing.
Yeah, it was such a good training ground for stunts though. I mean, you had the sword fights, you had the rappels, you had the rope swings, they put in later, they put in a fall. Mine wasn't a high fall, mine was 18 feet, but the pit was tiny. So it was certainly still pucker factor for me, but it really was great for that. But yeah, as far as like you said, some of the safety stuff, one of our Benjamin Blues, that was the only time I ever played a hero. I was Benjamin Blue back then when I was still not wrinkly. But yeah, he fell off the masked sword fight, misjudged the crow's nest, and then fell on his back into the pit, but missed the pads, so fell on the concrete.
Oh my gosh!
So it was rough, but it really was. I have to give him credit. If you wanted to really hone your stunt skills, that was the place. But also to your point, that was like an hour and a half of solid stunts. So, and you're doing that several times a week, so it beat the shit out of you.
I haven't seen that show in a long time, but I heard like when you went in there, that was probably the 6th or 7th rendition of that show. It took forever for them to dial it in to make it Americanized because they were doing some cheap European Spanish thing that you would see in a town of 10,000 people. It was so rinky dink and cheap, and the stuff they were putting in there and telling us what they wanted. And we're like, well, that's not going to work. Well, why are you doing that? No one's going to watch that. And then they put that pirate show in, and we did the best we could. But even then, I forgot who the director was. He was looking at us. He's like, this is what I have, guys. This is the script. And then it changed, and then it changed again. And then I moved to L.A., and from what I heard, the show you guys finally did is just like the one out here in Anaheim. And I've been to that show several times. It's really good. So they've either they turned it completely over to a real theater stunt directing production company, or they sold it or something. I don't know, but it finally made it to something watchable.
When I did it for a few years, and then it was Christian Stokes actually asked me to help open
and he did the one out here too.
Yeah. So I opened that one too.
Yep. Yeah, he was great. He knew his stuff. He's been in the entertainment business and did a lot of live shows all over the world, including, working for us in Japan. And he did the Wild West show in Orlando at Universal. And he was the right man for the job.
Absolutely. Well, you mentioned burns. We talked again before we started. The show that I'm putting on is going to portray the fire service. And what's sad is there are probably a handful of productions that have ever really shown what we do, the right way. And that's the EMS side as well. I mean, oh God, what was it? Code 3 was just done recently. It was a comedy, but they did a really good insight there. The Pit shows obviously what happens when we walk through the door, and you've got Ladder 49, Only the Brave, some ones that really, really did do it properly. But there's a lot of very kind of soap opera-esque, cheesy, Disneyfied, Hallmark Channel like shows that portray us all as models that are running around saving everyone, no one dies, etc. So with the stunt side, what are some of the idiosyncrasies of shooting some of the productions that you've been working on when it comes to portraying my profession, the fire service, and the calls that we're going to?
I feel most comfortable when they say, this is Chris, he's from Ladder 89 down the street. Anytime you walk on the set and it's a fire show like 911 or, I think I worked on that Ladder 46. Is that the one that's portrayed out of Washington? Or what's their hometown on that show? But I've worked on that. That's stunt coordinator Steve Davison. I've worked on that.
Okay, that was a John Travolta one, yeah.
Yeah, they always have professionals there, either as technical directors or they're in the show. They'll Taft-Hartley them and give them their SAG card. And those are the ones you feel more comfortable, because I've done a couple of fire burns at Warner Brothers, and they're one of the few studios that has their own fire department. Warner Brothers has their own ladder there. And every time I do a fire burn at Warner Brothers, there's like 10 firefighters standing there watching you. And they have a million questions, and they got their hose ready, and they got this hose ready, and all these fire extinguishers. So they say, it's different what you guys do. Can you explain why this guy's on fire? Why is he on fire? Why are we here? And I always tell them the same thing, because it's in the script. And then they bring in new guys all the time, and their first time in the studios working on a movie, and they're like, that doesn't make sense. Why is that guy on fire? Well, that's because it's in the script. So we got to take creative licenses, just so you guys know. And I'm always going to make sure this guy's gelled up and buckled up and misted up and watered down and super secure, and he's only going to burn for 15 seconds, and then I'll put him out. Anything beyond that, I'll yell for you guys. So just stand by. But I never have to use them. But they always, if you get those guys on set, that's who you want. But they always say, that's not how it works. That's not how we do it. That's not what. Well, your technical advisor's been in the business 20 years. He knows we got to take a creative license. So let me just finish this real quick, and then I'll explain it to you guys. Just stand by with the hose. But I want those guys there every time. God forbid the fire burn sets the set on fire, which has happened a couple of times. And then those guys are right there. So that's why they're there. And the new ones, you have to keep explaining them to what we're doing and why. And the old guys are like, don't worry about it. Just watch and learn, or vice versa. Because I always have questions for them too. The turnout suits. I got a fire station down the street from me, and they know me because I pop in there and ask them fire questions all the time. So that's my biggest asset. That led Mark Chadwick and myself to being leading fire burn guys here in Hollywood, is bouncing stuff off fire. But he had a buddy up in Santa Clarita that he used, and I have a buddy here in Thousand Oaks, and we would just bounce stuff off of them. And I learned a lot about textiles and protection and how fires dance and move around and fuel and all that fun stuff. So we need those guys. Absolutely.
Just to your question before, it was Baltimore. Just to hit me now, the Ladder 49 story, that's where it was set.
Oh, that took place, yeah.
Yeah, I had John Travolta on the show, and he was talking about being trained as a firefighter. And he was very humble. He was like, I was asked to do more. I didn't in the end. He said he only did so much because, it was intense. But it's interesting because, like you said, with that poetic license, I had the creator of Chicago Fire on as well. He's a real Chicago chief, Steve Chikaderis. But he was saying that he wrote the script, and then it was Hollywoodized, and then it got made, and my question is, why does Hollywood not just accept the way it actually happens, the way it's written? Because, if you go on any real live fire, that's going to be dramatic enough for you. You don't need to add these other elements.
I think it probably goes back 100 years when they started in the 20s with Buster Keaton. It's a 3-act play. It's vaudeville. It's start, middle, end. You got to have a full connecting arc, and it has to end a certain way. And real life doesn't do that. So they always have to take creative licenses to make it interesting. Because, you're watching this big scene, and maybe in real life it ends and everybody's happy. Well, they have to push that envelope and make it even more dangerous and out of control and crazy. And then they cut to a commercial, and so you'll come back. But that's not really what happened in real life. But they need that cliffhanger, they need that arc, and they need the story to end and finish it. And sometimes in real life, it never ends; it just keeps going. So they just like I can't remember the movie, Adam Sandler's movie, where he's obsessed with those cups for frequent flyer miles, like Crazy Punch Drunk Love or something like that. I don't know if you've ever seen that. Well, that happened to a real guy. He saw the error in American Airlines cups, that if you buy these cups for $1 and you get these points. He had 1 million frequent flyer miles and it cost him like 10 grand. So he's been flying all over the world with him and his family for the last 20 years because he saw the error in their advertisement. Well, that little tiny scene became a whole 2-hour movie with Adam Sandler, just based on a frequent flyer mile program that some MIT professor found. And I think that's what they do in real life. They'll take like that guy in Chicago. He might have a few stories, turn it over to Hollywood. Well, I got to have act 1, I got to have act 2, and I got to have act 3. And I got to fill in the blanks where there's no excitement or fun. So that's why you have the offshoot with the alcoholic brother. That's never happened to him, but they'll put that in there. Or this police chief is sleeping with this guy's wife. You'll throw in those little character arcs to make it interesting. And none of it really happened in life, but sometimes real things in life aren't interesting until Hollywood pumps them up. Or they're more interesting in real life and Hollywood ruins them. That happens once in a while too. Just because of their formula. They have a formula here, you know. There's a formula for telling stories, and it hasn't changed. Except Quentin Tarantino, maybe. Tarantino's kind of...
But some of the best films do go against it, don't they? Some of the best films break that mold, and it's interesting.
And they're far and few in between.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, but exactly. You just kind of hit on an interesting point. Is some of the TV making, especially television making process, become detached, become the soap opera because you were trying to keep the person glued to the screen until the commercials ended. But now, you know, they're kind of screwing it up at the moment. We're putting commercials in again. But until recently, there were no commercials. So arguably you got to tell stories, you know, in a much better way because you're not like after the break and all the drum beats and everything, you can just tell the story. So I wonder if, you know, now that we've got the streaming, and if you're on a channel that doesn't have commercials at all, like Euphoria on HBO, that does give you the chance now to just let the story flow without any of these kind of exaggerations of storytelling.
Yes, and I think what's happening from what, you know, my friends and I are saying at the stunt meetings and just casually talking is, as a stunt coordinator or a stunt director, you're putting together a bid or a budget to do stuff, and you've never heard of these producers. You've never heard of these actors or these creators. They're 25, 26, 27 years old. They didn't go to film school. They got their own agenda. They don't know anything about producing the PGA's rules. They don't understand the SAG rules or the DGA rules. They just go for it. And I think they're changing television. They're new, young, up-and-coming producers, directors, and creators that are just coming out of the woodwork because there's so much content. Back in the day, there was ABC, NBC, and CBS in America. 3 network television shows, and PBS, the public station. That was it. Then came Fox. And that was it. If you wanted to see movies, you went to the theater. Now, there's so many streaming channels. Netflix is dying for content. They need content. So does Paramount Plus. I mean, they're keeping Sheridan so busy, Taylor Sheridan. Mm-hmm. These new up-and-coming directors and producers and writers and creators don't care about arc. And like you said, you know, cliffhanger right before the commercial. They're coming out of left field. And some of it's good and some of it's not so good. But it's interesting to see how Hollywood is kind of giving people a shot that they've never heard of or seen because they went out and shot some spec or a previs that blew away some studio executive's assistant, wife's friend's neighbor. Oh, you should see this. Oh, wow. Yeah, let's put that on TV. So I don't know where these dudes are coming from, but some of them I haven't even heard of. When they call me for bids or budgets, they're like, well, this is crazy. I'm not paying that. Or, oh, who are you? I've never even heard of you. What do you do? Oh, I did this, this, and this. And like, oh, crap, you're on your way. Okay, I want to get in with this guy. Okay, I'll give you a little break on the equipment rental, but, you know, you got to get me on your next project because, man, that show I just saw on streaming channel is unbelievable. Awesome. Good for you. Who are you again? They're popping up everywhere out here, James. So if you got a good idea and you can get a spec going, that's probably what you got to do, is shoot a spec or some kind of 5-minute sizzle reel to get investors going. I don't know what your platform's going to be on, Netflix or something, but I think it's wide open for new creators, if you ask me, especially if you're on it and you understand the process and how to get a good product out there. Got to get a good editor, a good cinematographer, and a good color correction guy, and shoot a 5-minute spec that's super professional and off the wall, gets people to think. You're going to get picked up.
That's good to hear. That's exactly what I need to do then. Like I said, I'm still, starting from scratch. I, reinvented how to start a podcast, how to write books. I mean, I didn't really go to anywhere that said this is how you do it, because my whole thing was, well, we want to do something different. And that's what I've heard a few times now, is like you said, the YouTube and all these other platforms are creating these young, hungry filmmakers that, as to the question earlier about efficiency, they're making these without hundreds of millions of dollars, without taking, 14-hour days.
Mm-hmm. And they're creative, and it's interesting, and it makes you think, and you're like, this guy's good. He's going places, but it didn't happen overnight. I think these guys they have a good little team. So you need like a good camera guy and a good editor and a good color correction guy and a good cinematographer and a good audio guy. Everything has to be, at one point, 10, 15 years ago, people were making movies on their iPhone, and the color was bad. The cinematography was bad. The content and the writing was good. The editing was okay, but it just didn't look good or sound good. You got to have a mic on set. You got to have good sound editing. You got to have good color correction. It's got to look good. It's got to be succinct. So the guys that are doing that have a good team around them that are working for free, and maybe they're spending 20, 30 grand of their own money. I couldn't do that, but that's what they're doing. And man, there they are on Netflix and Paramount Plus and Disney Plus. Well, Disney Plus doesn't really take them. The one that's really snagging people and giving them a chance, I think, is Netflix. They're the biggest studio in the world. They're the ones with the most cash. And they need content, because I think they let you binge watch. If you watch Disney, you can only watch one episode of The Mandalorian a week, and then you got to wait a week to watch the next one. Mm-hmm. With Netflix, they just let you watch it all at once. So that's why they need content all the time.
Yeah, that's what I want with my show, because it's leading you on a journey. It's leading you to a certain direction to see, prejudice is basically your own biases, and then it's pulling you down this generational trauma story. And at the end, there's this post-traumatic growth. And if that was once a week, you'd be like, what happened again next week? And then you're losing that emotional kind of journey. Yeah. So you might have to do that out here in LA. I don't know if you're going to get people like that in Orlando. I don't know the resources that are available in Orlando much anymore. Or you could go up the street to Atlanta. You could go up to Atlanta and get it done, though, I think. Yeah. I've heard, a lot of the industry's even leaving there now. So I don't know where it's going next.
I think as long as they have that huge tax break, producers are going to come there and make movies. It just won't be stunt heavy, because DC and Marvel are leaving for sure. They're already set up in London. This movie they're shooting right now at Trilla Studios there in Fayetteville and Atlanta is Superman. And that might be the last big action, 6 or 7 month shoot. And then the rest, I think Atlanta's going to survive, because they have what's called the in-house stuff. They have grips and electric packages and camera packages and sound stages and permits, and they have bonding people there, and they have agents and managers. So they have all the infrastructure to keep going. It just won't all be Marvel stuff anymore. That was that 8-year run is over. So all of us that got to go there and make a ton of money on a long run on the Marvel movies, those are over. But everything you need to make a show is in Atlanta. There's 7 or 8 big studios there still that are just rocking. It's just no stunts, which don't need to be in your movie all the time, but we hope there is. Yeah,
absolutely. But I want to hit one more topic, and then we'll go to some closing questions, so I can be mindful of your time. Sure. If I'm not mistaken, what would it be, last year or early this year was the very first time that stunts were actually recognized in the Oscars, which blows my mind, especially as you just reeled off all these, DC and Marvel films that are pretty much 95% stunts with a tiny bit of talking in between them. So it's incredible that you guys haven't been recognized in that way before. What was the fight that led up to this? And then what has been the reception of finally being recognized on that particular stage?
I think, you might be asking the wrong person, because Me personally, I like staying in the shadows. I don't think we need an Academy Award, and that's going to get me in a ton of trouble. I don't think we'll ever get mainstreamed on TV and have a stunt coordinator go up there and accept an award on TV. I think it'll always be off camera before the show starts. I think it was a long 5-year fight, and Jack Gill and a lot of the big time stunt coordinators out here pushed and pushed and pushed for it. But what happened was the title of that is not included in our SAG contract. I think it's called action designer. Am I right? I think the Screen Actors Guild only recognizes stunt coordinator, helicopter pilot, and stunt performer. That's it. So stunt designer is not in the negotiations with the Motion Picture Association with producers. Our contract with the producers, that language isn't in there, action designer. So you sign a contract, it's not going to say action designer, but our category at the Oscars is called action designer. And I think Chris O'Hara for Fall Guy was the first one to get that credit at the end of the movie. I don't know how he got it, but he's a hell of a coordinator and a nice guy, and he did a great job, and he asked for it, and he got it. So I think groups like Stunts Unlimited, he's a member of, is trying to push that action designer thing, and God bless them, they got it through. And I think next year they're going to have an action designer Academy Award section, but I don't really care about that. I think it's arbitrary and ambiguous to give a stunt action designer an Oscar when there's so many 10, 15 giant action movies whose stunt is subjective. Whose stunt design is better than this guy? Stunt design. I don't think you're really a stunt designer because you got to work with props and special effects and the riggers, and it's a big pot that needs to come together. I think they should have called it action director or stunt director. Use the word director, because in the credits you could have director of photography, so-and-so, director of whatever, and then stunt director. I think stunt should be a directorial position, not a designer. Sounds like costuming to me. I don't like the title. I don't like the name. I don't like stunt coordinator either. I like stunt director. You're the director of the entire stunt sequence, the whole movie. You should be the director of that department. So there's other departments that have the word director in it. Ours should have the director. And then it wouldn't be so bad, but action designer just doesn't sit well with me. I don't like the name, and it's not in our SAG language. So they could have done a better job of naming it. I don't think we'll be televised for a while. They don't want a redneck up there and accepting an award. And just, everybody's in a tuxedo, and then the stunt coordinator shows up in a flannel shirt and a baseball cap with a radio on his hip. But there sure are a lot of good stunt designers and stunt coordinators in this business all over the world. Australia's, South America. There's a bunch in England, Canada, America. It's just, I think it's too hard to decide who gets that award. I don't understand it. But God bless them, they got it. Everybody's pretty stoked about it. So we'll see what happens.
It's funny you say that, because I've always said the same thing. We have a firefighter of the year award, and let's say you've got 100, 500. Yeah, exactly. How many people, and what's that based on? Someone's doing amazing altruistic work and nonprofit work, another person made a heroic rescue. Someone else is spearheading the mental health program. It's completely opinion based. And then even with the Academy Awards, one observation I've had is they're still subject to the flavor of the month. So, for example, Denzel Washington won that Oscar in basically the kind of Black History Academy, where he won it for Training Day. Now, this is the guy that was in Malcolm X and Cry Freedom, much better performances than Training Day. And that's the one he gets it, because Sidney Poitier, and I forget there was another Black actress as well, but that was a theme. So it seemed very disingenuous, because it wasn't actually the best performance or best perceived performance of that year. It was like, okay, it's their turn.
Yes, I wholeheartedly agree with that as well. I mean, my sister's a teacher. So how do they give a teaching award, the best teacher in the country, every year? Teacher of the year, so-and-so from Carmel, Indiana. Man, there's millions of teachers. How did they arrive at this guy being the teacher of the year in the entire country? So I think that's a promotional thing too, probably. I mean, if you promote the hell out of your action movie, you're going to get that Oscar. That's just the way it is. I've seen guys try to go for those Emmys. Vote for me. Vote for me. I'm up for stunt coordinator for Emmy. And they put it on their social media. Hey, man, you're advertising to get an award. That's not how awards work. You bust your ass, you kick ass, they vote for you, and you win it. But if you're going to promote yourself, here we go. Every year, the stunt team's probably going to have 7 different coordinators nominated. And they're all going to be fantastic. Or one will slip in there that doesn't know what they're doing. But they just happen to have a great team. You just never know. And it's going to be a mess, I think, for a while. And people are going to he won an Oscar? How the hell did that happen? His movie was better. I like the action design and Mad Max. How did he win for, Fallout? I don't know. It's going to be a lot of pissed off people, and a lot of people are doing some bragging. We already got enough egos and self-centered people out here. Now they're going to try and fight for an Oscar. It's going to be out of control. Those are some strong opinions, huh, James? I can say that because I'm on my way out. I'm almost done. So I just think that stunts, when I watch a James Bond movie, I don't care who's doubling him. To me, it's James Bond. I don't want to know who's doubling him or he had to have a stunt double for this fall or this. I want to just see the movie and just think that it's the James Bond characters doing all that. I like the in the shadows stuff. To me, I don't think we should be promoting doubling a guy. Did you check with your actor to see if you could say that and call him out? Maybe he did ride the motorcycle a little bit in that scene and you rode it down the stairs and he rode it out on the streets, but you're saying you go on your YouTube channel or your social media. Here I am with what's his name, Daniel Craig. I did all his motorcycle stunts for him. He didn't do any of them. I did them. Daniel Craig goes, I did a lot of it. What are you talking about? I went to motorcycle training class every day for 3 hours. I did a lot of that. You did some, but I did some as well. So you're going to take credit for him and you're in your suit and tie and you got a gun on your social media and you're telling everybody you're James Bond. I don't like that at all. I don't like that when people promote themselves as the double wearing their costume. You've seen that, right?
Yeah.
I don't like that at all.
And the reverse. Obviously, there's the conversation of some of the, it's the running joke, isn't it? Some of the actors saying they did all their own stunts, and there's some that we know out there that are very, very capable. Jason Statham was a high diver and as a martial artist, and Tom Cruise.
Yeah, give the stunt double some credits. Yeah, but I don't like seeing the guy in the costume on his social media saying he's the real guy that did everything. Just leave it to the illusion. I like the in the shadows thing. So it's always been my thing, but I'm old school. I'm old.
When I watched The Fall Guy, everything from the Miami Vice jacket, which I was like, I've seen that show, I'm sitting in the audience, which is a throwback obviously to your time. What was your perception of that? I thought it was a great throwback to real stunts, as you said, paying homage to some of the best in the industry, driving, high falls, etc. Yeah. As a lifelong stunt performer, what was your perception of the film?
Well, with tons of respect to Chris O'Hara, he's an incredible stunt coordinator and stuntman. He did a great job putting that together and getting the right guys together. And yeah, they did some gnarly stunts. It was a really fun movie to watch, and can't beat Ryan Gosling. I think he made us stunt guys look kind of stupid and aloof. He was kind of made us look like a bunch of goobs, which a lot of us are. But deep down inside, I really thought they should have showed more of Hollywood. I wish that movie would have been shot here so they could show the Capitol Record sign or the Hollywood sign, because that Fall Guy TV series took place here. I think they could have used a lot more Hollywood Americana in that movie. I was sad to see it. A tribute to Hollywood stuntman being filmed in Australia. I thought that was funny. I thought that was the wrong advertisement. This is a love letter to the Hollywood stunt community. And there's like 3 stuntmen from Hollywood that worked on it. Well, that was funny. Great movie, though. I loved it.
Yeah, no, a valid point, though. Absolutely. All right. Well, I want to go to some closing questions before I let you go. The first one I love to ask, is there a book or other books that you love to recommend? It can be related to our conversation today or completely unrelated.
I have all these books right here on my bookshelf are autobiography books. I read autobiographies. I love them. I've read Charlton Heston's In the Arena. I strongly recommend Michael J. Fox's first book called Lucky Man about his affliction. That was a great book. It was a page turner. What else? One of the best ones my wife gave me, I was a huge fan of Carol Burnett growing up. She wrote a book and told all about making that TV series. I found that fascinating. You wouldn't think I was a Carol Burnett fan, but I love that sketch comedy. It reminded me growing up in Iowa, we would watch that on Saturday nights. So that was a great book. And then another one that's really good is Bryan Cranston's book. I forgot the name of it, but I think he's only written one, but it's a good book too. So lots and lots of autobiography books. I can't even remember all the ones. I've read the one on Eugene Horowitz. That is Michael Landon from Bonanza. His real name's Eugene Horowitz. The Real Eugene Horowitz. That was a good book about all his times on. The guy was the king of television. He did 11 years of Bonanza, and I don't know how many years of Little House on the Prairie, and then Highway to Heaven for 7. The guy was on TV for 30 years, so that was a good book. So the only other books that I've read outside of autobiographies is probably The Da Vinci Code. I think I finished that in 2 days. Who was that? Brown. Your listeners will be able to look it up. The Da Vinci Code is a very succinct page turner, like 6 or 7 pages, and then you got to go to the next page and the next page. And then I was one of the few movies I went and saw, like, oh, I read the book. And you could say, oh, there's nothing like the book. That's one of the few things I could say about that book. But yeah, the Da Vinci Code's a page turner. But since the movie's out, people probably don't read the book anymore.
Was it Dan Brown? Have I got that right?
Yeah, that's it. Yeah. The
Okay.
Da Vinci Code. Great book. Great movie.
One of the autobiographies I got told to read, and I'm looking at it right now, still unread because it's on my shelf, but I will, is Andre Agassi's book. It's called
what's this called?
Open. Apparently, like, numerous people have told me it's the best autobiography they've ever read. Now, I don't even know why, because I haven't cracked it yet, but if you like that genre, that's one that I recommend. Yeah. Well, someone else recommends through me.
Yeah. Huh. I never would have thought. I wonder if he had some turmoil or something that we didn't know about behind the scenes. Being married to Brooke Shields and all that fun stuff. Okay.
All right. What about film, television, or documentaries that you love?
Well, we talked about it. Can't beat Band of Brothers. It's the best miniseries ever made, period. That show comes on. That's a remote drop. I watch it, and I've seen it 15 times all the way through. TV shows. Well, it's weird that I think before I read Michael J. Fox's book, I was a huge fan. I don't know if you like those movies, but to me, I'm fascinated by Back to the Future, the trilogy. I think that's my favorite movie. I love those movies. I think it's succinct and perfect. People try to pick it apart, the time travel stuff. But to me, it was written pretty well and done really well. And I love the behind the scenes stuff where they filmed 2 and 3 together. And Family Ties TV show wouldn't let him go, so he'd do Family Ties during the day and then shoot Back to the Future at night and sleep in the limo on the way to work. And I just think that that's one of the best movie franchises ever made. I love Back to the Future. And a TV show, yeah, you know what? I've kind of gone towards documentaries and planets. I love Blue Planet by David Attenborough narrates. I love that. BBC's Planet Earth or whatever it's called. I watch National Geographic, the History Channel. But dang, a TV show. Of course, at night I always like to go to bed with a laugh, so I'll watch Seinfeld. I've seen every one of those episodes about 50 times. I never get tired of Kramer. And I love King of Queens. I love that guy, Kevin James. So I guess sitcoms, but TV shows I never got into drama series TV. It was always comedies. I always wanted to laugh before I went to bed. So Seinfeld, King of Queens, Everybody Loves Raymond, Cheers, all the stalwarts, the famous ones. I watch those reruns all the time. And Friends. And now I'm hooked on Big Bang Theory, so I've been watching that. But yeah, I guess sitcoms, isn't that funny? That keeps me in a serious business, gives me, on TBS or TNT or late at night, you watch those reruns and you go to bed with a smile on your face. So
it's interesting that you just told me that story about Michael J. Fox. doing the two productions side by side. And the reason being, because of this profession, because of all the sleep medicine experts I've had on the show unpacking all the issues that we have, I wonder if any of Michael's Parkinson element disease that he ended up getting was attributed possibly to burning the candle at both ends when he was younger.
It's in his book.
Oh, really?
Right after, it's in his book that he passed out in that hanging scene when they went back to the West in the third one, that cut off his circulation and he actually passed out. And then a couple years later, he's making a movie called Doc Hollywood. Mm-hmm. I don't know if you ever seen that one.
I did.
And his fingers started twitching right there. And he kept it a secret for about 6 or 7 years. Did all of Spin City with it, that TV series. And then his arms started shaking and then his whole body, and then he had to tell the world. But he thinks it started from that accident on Back to the Future 3, if you read his book. I think he has 3 books, but the first one, it's the only one I've read. It's called Lucky Man. Because I guess he smoked a lot and drank a lot. And if he hadn't got this disease, he probably would have drank himself to death and he would have got a divorce. But that disease kind of saved him in his marriage and brought him back down to earth, and he stopped partying and drinking. And it's a terrible, terrible affliction, but he said it saved his life because he was in a bad place. All that pressure. We didn't talk about that, but I think a lot of people quit the business or take a hiatus because of the pressure of a $250 million movie, and you got to hit your mark and say your lines and be funny. It's a tremendous, tremendous amount of pressure. So I think John Hamm went through that on Mad Men. After a while, all those cocktails they're drinking at work, after a while, and the scenes, some of them had real alcohol in it, and he became an alcoholic because he's in every scene. He carries it, big, long monologues, and it just wears on you. And I think Michael J. Fox was all that pressure from being a successful film star and TV star got to him, and he was drinking a lot. So it's tough business, man. It'll get you. That's why you gotta have a good wife and a good home life, I think. Like I have. I'm just lucky. I got a rock at home. So.
Well, it goes back to what you were saying as well about leaning into the television side or the commercials and some of the other things that you did to make sure that you're at home. And there was that, conversation in the Fall Guy documentary about the other side of that. And you hear that with, successful bands, that you think that they must have everything sorted out because everyone adores them and they sing to tens of thousands of people. But you over and over again, you see them on the tour bus and they just miss the shit out of their family. So, that balance, whether you're a firefighter having a healthy work week or whether you're, working in television, we see the same issues. We see the addictions, we see the suicides, we see the divorces.
Yeah. I lost a very, very, very good friend of ours, the Florida Mafia, our leader, Scott Workman. His business and his relationships got to him and he took the easy way out. And it's been 10 or 11 years now and still miss him terribly. What went wrong? What could we have done to help him? Our buddy, he was a rock star, superstar, stuntman, and something got to him and he was gone. So, that's the heartache of this business. It's terrible.
Yeah. Well, the other thing that we've learned from the military, which is definitely applicable in the stunt world, is head trauma too, CTE, and those elements that can create suicide ideation even without psychological trauma.
A horrific accident. If you can't come back for it and you think your career's over, then that's the simple way is to get the jug out. And the mind is the strongest and your best and worst enemy. If you let it take you over, you got to have a strong mind as well as physical in this business. If you want to be a good stuntman, not only do you have to be physically in shape, you got to be mentally sharp because the long hours and then the failures, you think you're on this show and you're not, or you did and you failed, or you got beat up and blew your knee out. Now you're out 6 months. Will they ever hire you again because you blew that gag? It's a mental. Same thing with all these high tension professions. I mean, I would hate to be an EMT from the stories I've heard and getting ran over by a train and you got to come and rescue this guy who's missing his leg. And that just wears on you if you got one of those a week and you didn't save this baby in a fire and this whole family was lost in a drowning accident and a boating accident. the firemen and cops and people that have to go through that stuff, they bring it to set when they're your technical advisor, and you hear stories about them. You're like, I don't want to hear this. I got a scene to do, man. Terrible.
Yeah, but that's the world we live in. I think this is the thing. I think telling that in a raw way, there's a lot of value to it as well. You round the edges of these stories, and it just seems all heroism and camaraderie, and it is. But the way that they work, especially in California, they're so understaffed at the moment because we've devolved as a profession because we haven't fixed the things that are broken. You got guys, if you got a Californian firefighter coming on set, it's a strong possibility that he's maybe works 80, 90 hours that week, only slept 3 of the
and he's seen some
7 days.
stuff. Yeah,
exactly.
they've seen some stuff. Yeah.
So, all right. Well, speaking of great people, is there a person that you'd recommend to come on this podcast as a guest to speak to the first responders, military, and associated professions of the world?
Oh, sure. That's easy. The first name that pops into my mind is our mentor, John Zimmerman. He's an ex-Vietnam vet. He was a helicopter door mechanic. He's seen some stuff in Vietnam, and he's an old circus pro. He's in the Guinness World Book of Records. He's grew up here in Carson, California, moved to Orlando, Florida on a whim in 1979, and took over all the live shows and film and TV there with his circus abilities. And you've been out to his compound, I'm sure.
I haven't actually. Yeah, that's one thing I never did.
I would put you in touch with him and have you go out to that compound and take some pictures or some video. It's still got a giant circus full trapeze setup, high fall tower, rappelling tower. He's got 2 or 3 trampolines. He's got a warehouse. He's got an apartment out there. He's got so much gear and pads and trucks and trailers. It's the Haines City Stunt Ranch in Haines City. And I would bring him on if you want to hear some stories. That guy's got a million of them. He knows everybody in the business and everybody knows him. And he is the stalwart for Southeast United States as far as stunt rigging and equipment and mentorship and live show circuit. Back in the day, I think he was in charge of like 11 stunt shows, including Europe, Japan, and Orlando. So a lot of sleepless nights, he would say. Most of it was workers' comp and paperwork and insurance paperwork, So, yeah, he's seen a lot of stuff. He'll tell you some great stories. He's a great speaker too. He's a good conversationalist. So, that would be my recommendation, John Zimmerman. Right.
Thank you. Yeah,
right there.
Let's make it happen. Absolutely.
Yeah, he would love it.
All right. Well, then the last question before we make sure everyone knows where to find you: what do you do to decompress?
I think getting away from the business and hanging out with these kids and watching them grow and get faster and stronger under my tutelage is, I've been doing it 15 years. My wife told me that her mom and dad were heavy into charity work, and if we're going to live in Thousand Oaks, you got to give back to the community. So pick something, go help at the old folks home, or go to a Kiwanis meeting, or go coach youth sports. And I go, okay. So I went and checked out the local youth track club. And so March through May, track season, March, April, May, I'm coaching youth track, and I go there and crack the whip Monday through Friday from 5 to 6:30 at the high school track, practicing high jump and long jump and blocks and relay exchanges, and molding these kids and listening to their exploits at school, chasing girls, and the girls are chasing the boys, and all the problems they're having at school. And then they come there and they get faster every week. And hey, coach, I ran an 11.6 today. I cut my time down by half a second. So that's where I decompress, is at the Oval Office, I call it. Just watching these kids listen to what I have to say and teach and coach track. And then I go to track meets every Saturday with like 600 kids, 8 different teams. There's lots and lots of clubs out here. So I do that. And like I said, I relax and try to watch comedy. Just try to find something to make me laugh, like Kevin James or Jerry Seinfeld. I'm actually just turned 63 the other day. My wife got me tickets to Seinfeld at the Greek Theater out here. So I'm going to that tomorrow. So I'm looking forward to some stand-up comedy. So we love live music and stand-up comedy. We go watch Jim Gaffigan, or we'll go to a local bar and listen to some music. That's why I decompress. Or I go to Universal Studios and watch my kid do the Waterworld stunt show.
Amazing. Well, happy birthday, by the way.
Oh, thanks. Doesn't get any easier. That's all the ageism going out here. How old are you? I guess none of your business. How old do I look? Let's go. You don't need. As soon as they hear you're in your 60s, they're like, "Ooh, can you do this?" But yeah, I'm almost done. I can feel it. I'm almost done. I'll miss it. I don't know if I can completely retire 100% because the phone keeps ringing, but I'll do it as long as the phone keeps ringing. I think even retirement. I don't have any hobbies besides coaching track and going to the movies and watching, stand-up comedy. I don't really have any hobbies. I don't golf anymore. I don't play softball. I don't go fishing. It's being a dad and coaching track and field, and that's about it.
That's important, though. My son was a track runner too, so his coach was definitely a mentor. So I know that you're making a difference.
Yeah, that's what I'm hoping anyway. I'm pretty nice out there most of the time.
Sometimes they need a strong arm, though.
Oh, it's so hard to get the kids off their phone. They're on a little water break, and they're like, "What's so important that you have to check your phone every 5 minutes? Put your phone in your bag and leave it, or better yet, leave it at home." So it's taken a while for us older guys to get used to those kids on their phone nonstop. It's unbelievable.
Mm-hmm. Well, for people listening, if they want to learn more about you, reach out to you, where are the best places online to do that?
We have a website at the International Stunt Association, www.isastunts.com. And if you scroll down there to the membership and click on my name, I'm sure my height and weight and skills and headshot and resume will pop up, and you'll know everything you need to know about me. Or you can go to the Internet Movie Database, imdb.com, and look up Jason Gray. You'll probably see 230, 240 credits, and you'll know what movies and TV shows I've worked on. So
fantastic. Well, Jason, I want to say thank you so much. It's been 25 years since you were teaching me how to basically be a stuntman from almost scratch.
It goes fast. 25 years.
It does, and you've done so much since then. And my career has been bizarre since then as well. So I want to thank you so much for being so generous with your time and coming on the Behind the Shield podcast today.
Well, I want to thank you for having me on. I'm honored that you called. I've seen your podcasts. They're brilliant. So thanks for bringing me on, and I hope we can do it again sometime.